And we're back after so long.
Welcome to Dialog Choices podcast.
How many weeks has it been?
2, exactly.
No,
3
has
weeks.
Not. It has been more. So many things have happened.
Because we missed 2
meantime.
weeks, right? Which means it's been 3 weeks.
Yeah.
That's how math.
So many things have happened in this meantime. GTA 6 has been leaked. Anno beads have been used to cheat at chess. And I think possibly the most important and like not groundbreaking is not the word, but like life-changing thing that happened obviously over the course of the last 3 weeks.
Stuff that's really going to make the annals of history.
Yeah. It's that Death Stranding, the sequel, sort of has been teased by Hideo Kojima, and everybody's very excited for that as well. So
is he still stranded and dead?
I don't know. It's just, who am I is the question. Did you see the announcement?
No.
I mean, it's going to be called Live Stranding now. So Live Stranding is the sequel to Death Stranding.
You know what? That would be a better title than Death Stranding.
And then Sleep Stranding will be the third game.
It'd be just like Twitch
Sleep
streamers.
is in between.
Playing
Twitch Standing,
like rap.
Twitch Standing is a pretty bold name.
Twitch Stranding. Oh, that's yeah. I can see
Twitch
that.
Stranding. I mean, everything could be a Stranding game, right?
I don't know, because isn't it supposed to be about the whales? And then the whales feature 0% in the plot of the whole game.
I couldn't tell you. I never beat the game, so I have no idea.
Oh, you never beat the game?
You're asking if the game is about the whales?
No, it isn't. But the name is about the whales, and there's just like, oh man. Then
it's about beaches, I guess. The fake death beach. Yeah, that's
not the plot of the game. They could call it like the prairie. It would work just the same.
The prairie.
It's a typical. The Death Stranding's plot is typical.
All of humanity was beached.
No, they weren't. Why come up with that analogy?
It's very weird thinking that Death Stranding and Pathologic 2 both came out a year before the pandemic, because they both feel like games about the pandemic.
Well, I mean, Kojima does that all the time, though, right? He's
prescient.
Shows up and is like, wouldn't it be funny if this terrible dystopian kind of thing happened? And he's like, yeah, let's do that, Kojima. He's like, wait, no.
He does spend the entire ending of Metal Gear Solid 2 describing WhatsApp and Reddit in advance. Although sometimes people pay attention to him just noticing the past and think that he's predicting the future. Like when he said, like apparently in Revengeance, the bad guy says "Make America Great Again," but he's quoting Reagan. Because that was not a new phrase.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, Reagan? He predicted the reactionaries of the future. It's like, no. No,
they're just reusing it. That's normal.
We just forget things very quickly.
I thought I thought it was the KKK, not Reagan.
Well, I'm sure the phrase wasn't invented by Reagan, but give some credit to people. Most people don't remember Reagan, and he didn't remember himself either by the end. So at the end of the day, what's to really how is it anybody's fault? They don't.
I wish people remembered Reagan less, or at least they choose to remember a version of him that is like a weird magic fantasy.
I wish people remembered the real Reagan and not like the historical Reagan, because the real Reagan's a lot worse of a person than the one that the history books make out to be, which is impressive because the history books aren't very flattering on Reagan either.
I mean, every president's actually a nightmare. It's we live in a hell of our own making forever.
Excuse you, George Washington was a great president. I don't know what kind of things you could cancel him over.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't president.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
He was the first president.
Who was the person who wasn't a president? There was a person who was like, everybody thinks I was a president, but I wasn't.
Most people.
Well, no, you heard me.
I mean, if you want to be technical, like every president that isn't the party, that isn't the president of the people who
are you talking about, like who's the person that's on our money that wasn't a president?
Oh, maybe that's what I'm thinking. Yeah,
you're talking about Benjamin Franklin.
That's the one. Yeah.
Benjamin Franklin had zero reason to be president.
That would get down to the bottom of this.
Mm-hmm.
Franklin was too busy being a playboy. He didn't have time to be president, and good for him, honestly.
Not for his lovers though, because he had syphilis. So it was a bad time.
So did like everyone in Europe had syphilis. That was the thing.
It was very fashionable. Yeah,
it was a fashionable disease. Honestly, only the poor didn't have syphilis.
They didn't have time to do it. They were slaving away at the factories and whatnot.
Well, and now they're going to never know the joys. So looks like they're a loss.
The joys of itchy scrotum.
But yeah, no, Franklin. I think we chose a lot of wasn't most of our money based on founding fathers, not from presidents?
I don't know.
I think
I have some dollars in my house right now. I know exactly where they are. So I
know that I know the majority of people on our money are presidents, but we've also changed it over the time. I think in the beginning our money was more founding fathers and presidents, and then we slowly have moved it to presidents. Yeah, because we kicked off like Alexander Hamilton off the $10 bill. Was Hamilton a president though? I think he was a president.
I don't know.
Hamilton? I don't remember if he was a.
I know there's a play about it.
That's not a very good representation of Alexander Hamilton.
I don't know.
I don't think he was much into musicals. Let's see. He was a.
You only have $100 bills. You don't go above that. That's interesting.
Why would we go above $100 bill? What are you trying to buy?
Have you really gone above 500? I wonder.
500? Why would you spend $500? Why would you have a bill of $500? That is way too much money to be easily stolen.
Well, don't get stolen. Don't get robbed. I mean, don't live. I suppose that's.
On one hand, there's discussion to be had about how like the lower end of all money needs to be phased out because so much of it is like actively useless. Like pennies don't facilitate commerce. And that was a point that was made 15 years ago. So now they facilitate even less commerce, and we keep making them. But at the same time, I don't know if there's much need for larger bills when we're mostly just turning away from the idea of bills at all.
Yeah, that's true.
But anyway, let's talk about a thing people actually fucking care about. Overwatch.
That's right. Overwatch.
Oh no!
I feel so fucking vindicated at the moment. All these motherfuckers.
You didn't open your loot boxes?
Every single time I don't engage with like a free-to-play style mechanics in games, they're all designed to hook you in and whatnot, and I just play the game and I ignore the thing and I don't touch it. And all these people fucking complain in the comments for such a long time, and it's always like it's free and it doesn't matter, it doesn't affect you, and there's no reason to be mad about it. Like it's this very obvious defensiveness, like. The way that people react to somebody else being vegan, even when the person that's vegan doesn't like say anything about their behavior, there's like an inherent insecurity in the idea that somebody else is making a choice on some level that might be morally inclined, and then so you feel guilty about not doing exactly what they do, and like that whole like bizarre thing that makes people like lash out and complain about like vegans and so on. Like I was constantly getting that about the fucking loot boxes because I wasn't opening them, and it's like, do you not see the endless march of history in gaming to get worse forever? Like once upon a time, the fucking Chad gamers of the 2000s were like furious about horse armor once upon a time. Like, how dare Bethesda make a horse armor DLC for Oblivion? What an incredible, like, horrible scam, and what an intense, crazy perversion of the entire pricing structure of video games and what content deserves to be, and blah 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 blah. And nowadays people just like bend over for Genshin Impact, and it's like controversial for me to not like Genshin Impact and so on, and it's controversial for me to not engage with loot boxes. And lo and fucking behold, Overwatch's sequel. You can't really say it doesn't affect gameplay now, huh? The fucking battle pass has the characters locked to it. the new characters for the new sequel, as far as I can tell, are all tied to the fucking battle passes. You have to do the stupid battle pass to get the characters, which like raises several problems.
You don't have to do the battle passes to get the characters. You only have to do that to get the characters during the battle pass season. So when the battle pass is out,
what does that mean?
Yeah, so you got to wait
the battle pass.
That's a long time.
Okay. So here's the way that it works.
If it's the duration of normal Overwatch seasons, at least.
And so, okay, for context here, because I'm sure it's gonna happen. I have no support for this. I don't want this at all. I only wish for Overwatch to just crash burn and die out the gate. But here's how it works. So battle pass comes out, much like every other battle pass. The main character, that new character, is going to be on that battle pass. Once you get it, you can play that character. Everything is fucking hunky dory. If you don't want to pay for the battle pass like a reasonable, sane human being, you wait until the battle pass is over, and then there will be a path to unlocking that character for free once the battle pass is over. But however, the contention here is that the only way you can play competitive is if you buy the battle pass and unlock the character. Because you're not allowed to play competitive if you do not have access to the characters.
Well, what I was getting to is the fact that this game was creating a situation where you can be on a team where a specific composition comes up, and the ideal way to deal with that is to switch to this character, and the person that needs to switch to that character doesn't own that character. Like, that's the new Overwatch experience. In a game where they've reduced the parties to 5 people, which means the individual players are all more impactful than ever before.
And this means
so it's going to be really fun to be on a team and you find out that like your support staff don't have access to this new character that's super required for the meta, and you just get completely trounced over because you're playing with a bunch of people who don't want to pay for DLC. So your experience in quick play is really bad.
We're also talking about the launch version that has like maybe 3 characters, which also is like a incredibly small roster of new characters for a supposed sequel. Like I was expecting like 10.
Wait, they're not porting the characters?
What?
Yeah, they are.
They're not porting all the characters into Overwatch 2?
They're keeping all the old characters. I'm saying that making a sequel should include I don't know, 8 to 12 characters. That should be like how you justify it being a sequel.
Whoa, but instead barely got a sequel.
But instead we only have 3 characters and they all have to be unlocked, so you can't even just play them right away. But also like this creates a long-term problem where as the game continues to grow and have more characters supposedly like before, that's an even longer list of characters you have to unlock over time as a new player in order to even have access to the full game's like abilities and skills and things that like let you interact with everything. Like I'm so baffled. It's but also like everyone whoever was like, oh, you should just engage with the loot boxes and encourage the system because you know it like helps the game profit or whatever the fuck, and it doesn't hurt the gameplay. It's the best system ever because it has no effect on the gameplay. Well, that's out the fucking window, isn't it? At least Halo Infinite and its horrible battle passive, would you like a slightly different chunk of metal to put on your shoulder? Isn't like, hey, we locked sniping behind the battle pass, so good luck.
Well, I don't understand though. What is the battle pass? Like that term means so many different things in so many different games.
It's the same battle pass that as far as I can tell, it's the same battle pass that I saw when I played the not
Apex
Fortnite.
Legends.
Yes, that one. Apex Legends. So you keep leveling up, and there's 2. This is what was discovered. It was discussed in a Folding Ideas video manufactured shit. Hang on. No.
You're gonna look it up now. We're all doing it.
Manufactured Discontent. There we go. I'm like, what's the name of one of my favorite videos? I couldn't fucking think of it. But he discusses a lot in there, but it's just the ideal of the manipulative tactic in battle passes is basically FOMO, which is the fact that there's an entire season of this battle pass being in play, and you can unlock the contents of that battle pass by playing during that battle pass. And then once it's over, it's just gone forever. So you can't get any of those things ever again. To put this in furry terms, there's a fucking werewolf in Fortnite, and you can't get him. He's like the most famous skin in the fandom, and you actually can't get him unless you played that exact season at that time and unlocked him. It's like that's just a thing
for that as well.
Or my annoyance of the fucking I want to put stupid cat ears on my Master Chief, and they won't give it to me. They won't let me buy it. That's battle passes. That's the bullshit that this stuff is. But the manipulative tactic that they use here is that when you play a game that has a battle pass, every time you play at all, you're leveling up. So you're always leveling up and getting some bullshit. Like when we play Fall Guys, or even last night when we played Among Us, like you level up now in Among Us. Great, cool, love that.
What?
And then you unlock some bullshit.
Up in Among Us? Why?
And if they're being okay-ish about it, then this is just a level up mechanic that does nothing, and it's just permanent, and it's just like you get level 50, you get a fireball, whatever, and it's just cosmetics. But if it's a battle pass, then you have like 6 weeks to finish leveling up all the way. Otherwise, all the stuff on that track, because every level will give you like items, will just go away forever. You'll never get them. So it's like a manipulative way to get you to keep playing for unlock reasons within a time limit instead of playing because you want to, which is already bad as a way of like incentivizing the wrong reasons to play instead of just because you like a video game. But there's a second track, the premium track of the Battle Pass. So below the free track is the premium track, and that's a second set of unlocks for all the levels. And so what happens is that as you get down the battle pass, there are more frequent and unlocks on the premium track and less frequent unlocks in the free track. They're unique. They're both unique. And so you can't get a single one from the premium one unless you're paying. And at some point, as you keep leveling up, the free track gets more and more vacant, and the premium track gets more and more full of just shit that you can keep getting. And so you just keep getting taunted every time you finish a match with the stuff that you would have gotten if you just had bought the premium thing. And at any moment, look at all the stuff you've already unlocked. You're level 72. Don't you want that stuff you've unlocked? You've unlocked 30 items. If you pay now, you can have it. So it's that pressure. It's an emotional pressure that they exert on you over and over again at the end of every match for every time you play a multiplayer game. And that's just what multiplayer gaming is like now. And it's like trash. Yeah. It's horrible. I fucking hate it. You'll see me hit escape as fast as possible to skip the end screen of these games every single time because I'm like, shut the fuck up.
It's predatory and it's bad, but I think the way you're describing Overwatch 2, it's even worse. Because
they put gameplay stuff in the pass.
Yeah, because
it's unacceptable.
Like, are you saying that basically the new characters that are going to be released every season will be locked behind the battle pass?
They're adding a new character every other season, and it's unlocked it's unlocked by the battle pass.
Which means that character will 100% of the time be more powerful than it will be once it's not unlocked.
That is the famous League of Legends problem, which is the idea that whenever they add a new character, they have to sell the new character, so they always have to be a little bit overpowered because you have to like be like, oh man, I really want that character that seems strong. You don't want to be like,
it's a meta.
You can't have the like problem with like Echo 2 weeks after her release, where immediately she was like forgettable garbage, and no one wanted to play her. If she's a product that you're trying to sell. Like you can add characters.
It's gonna be like Brig.
Yeah, you can add characters to a meta and be like, well, it's not working out great yet. Maybe we'll tweak them a little bit in a few months or something. Or maybe changing another character will actually lead to them suddenly becoming the best character because suddenly their niche exists or something. But instead, it's like, no, we got to sell this character, so they're gonna be kind of bullshit and having like this overtuned kit while they make us money, and then they'll be suspiciously weaker a few months later.
Yeah, they'll be nerfed.
Like that specific arc. It's like,
of course.
Man.
Meanwhile, which means the competitive will be broken 100. Well, not 100% because it's only every other season. So every other season, the competitive will be broken.
Well, so there'll be one. So the season when the character comes out, it won't be worth playing, and then the season after it comes out, it won't be worth playing because now all the people who didn't pay for Battle Pass will have access to it, and they will just be getting access to it. So it means they won't know how to play the character. So you're either stuck in an unbalanced character competitive scene when you paid for it, or you're stuck in like everyone has access to this character they are very trash at scene. And so like there's just never going to be a fun time to play competitive anymore. And that's honestly great because the more you punish competitive, which is the whole point of Overwatch, and to make it so people don't want to play it anymore, then the less people will play it, and then it will just die, and then we can finally move on and just be done with it. Like this is definitely why they This is so much why they definitely wanted to basically update over Overwatch 1, because locking characters behind Battle Pass would 100% get you people to not jump on board with this game unless you force them into it. Like, that is the entire stratagem, is hoping that, like, well, they can't go back to Overwatch 1, so they have to like this idea. Like, like that is the worst defender here at the end of the day, is saying, like, not only can you not go back to your Overwatch that isn't scummy like this, but now you only have an option.
Tank synergy with no battle pass. Like, that game deleted in a couple of weeks. It's just not going to be here soon.
Just great. And
am I wrong in looking at Overwatch as I like one character, maybe two, and I play them exclusively?
You're not going to have a very good time in competitive.
That's all I play.
I would say that that's generally understood to be how a lot of people play the game. Yes, including a lot of high-end players. Like, because at some point you have to be so good at the specific character that you play that you pretty much do have to focus on them all the time. But you do also need to be able to switch to certain things and certain strategies just to, like, solve problems sometimes, essentially.
Yeah.
Unless you're playing in, like, Overwatch League top 500 levels, you need to know how to play every character at least enough to, like, know when they're gonna have ult or know what their stuff does or their cooldowns. Like,
no,
Overwatch is
for sure. Yeah.
Overwatch is like a very big game about like switching. The whole point of that game is switching characters on the fly when you need to tackle problems, and
that's at least what they tried to advertise it as. But
I don't know that
that's the game they tried to make. I don't think that's functionally the game they made for the most part. One of the biggest things is the fact that you lose all of your ult every time you switch, which actively disincentivizes switching.
Not anymore.
In many cases. Did they change that?
You still do.
No.
Well, maybe not in Overwatch.
You do not. Overwatch 2, you will not lose all of your ult charge. You only lose a certain percentage of it.
So it's still disincentivized, just not too much. Yeah, the way I do it when I switch is I wait until my ult is good, I do my thing, and then I switch. But my point is, like, playing both with Moira and with Lucio, they're my mains, they're like, it's not like playing DPS or like playing tanks where, well, tanks are very specialized. Basically, heals and tanks, you need to know the characters very well to be able to take advantage of them. Lucio is probably the easiest, but like jumping around and being fast in the map takes a little bit of practice, and I just like it because it's fun. But the moment, like, I see so many Lucios just be bad. Like, enemy Lucio, always bad. And I know exactly why they're bad. And I know why and how to take advantage of that. And it's like, but that's because I dedicate all my time to Lucio. Overwatch 2 doesn't...
He's a very specific skill to learn.
Yeah, but you can say the same thing for the punchy guy. What's his name?
Doomfist.
Doomfist, yeah. It's very, very specific. Moira is a little bit as well, but not too much. It's mostly about positioning of the
Doomfist
heal balls.
Tank. That's surreal. And then apparently isn't he immediately bad?
So they fixed him and then they made him bad again. So they changed it. So when he originally showed up, he wasn't a very good tank, and then they changed it so that his slam attack, when he like falls into the ground, not his ult, but like his one of his slam attacks would slow an enemy that gets hit by it. So that means your ult can easily kill that person. You just slam and then ult and then kill them instantly. And they said, oh, that's not fun anymore, so we're gonna get rid of that. And now he's not a good tank anymore. So
that's for Overwatch 2, though, right?
That's for Overwatch 2. Overwatch 1, he's still, he's not a tank. So in Overwatch 1, he's just he's a really easy guy you can shoot.
I tried learning him, but from a movement perspective of being able to like climb on top of buildings and stuff. And it's just like, it's very difficult.
It is hard to fuck with that geometry. And ironically enough, I remember because they changed him to a tank, they changed his kit. And so his movement isn't the same that it used to be in Overwatch 1. And so the people that are really big on doing the Doomfist parkour were upset that like, I just can't play Doomfist parkour anymore because you just fucking wipe his characters. Like, can we like give him his old kit back in the custom editor? Like, can we give him certain moves? Because I would like to have access to that. So it's like, oh man, If only you didn't install over Overwatch 1, then people could just keep having the fun that they.
Yeah, that for me is just I don't understand why they're. I mean, I understand why they're doing it, but I think it's super bad.
Yeah, I think they're doing it to avoid the obvious, which is either no one wants to go to Overwatch 2 and now they fuck themselves, or the servers for Overwatch 1 become like slowly more barren. And why are we paying money for barren servers when we barely can afford to keep the lights on? Obviously, since every game that we make is now a battle pass game.
Are you sure that they barely can afford literally anything at all? Activision,
well,
Blizzard.
Every single fucking game that they come out with has a loot box or battle pass system, so they must be struggling for money. So because they're begging for it, they're just begging for it every time you turn their games on for money.
They're
so they must be struggling.
Their users. It's just the monetization.
A battle pass is no different than someone holding a sign that says, "I need help, please donate." There's no other difference between that. Like, why else would you have a battle pass unless you desperately needed money?
You need to look at monetization. We've talked a little bit about this before, but like you need to look at any type of monetization, from just plain old expansions to like subscription models. You need to look at them like they know they can sell the game for a certain amount of money, but they also know that there's a certain section of their player base that would pay a lot more. And so things like gold editions and pre-order bonuses and like weird DLCs that don't really add anything, or like nonsense, like all of that is just sucking money out of their dearest player base. Of the people who like their game the most, they're the ones that are going to be paying the most, and they pay because they want to, naturally, but obviously the implication of that is that the company knows that they want to and will suck them dry as much as possible. And that's how you see things like Diablo Immortal and literally any gacha game working so well, is because it doesn't matter that the vast majority of people don't engage in those monetization systems. It doesn't matter that you can enjoy the game, or I mean, I suppose you can enjoy literally anything, but it doesn't matter that you can enjoy the game without spending money. The point is they have a fan base that will pay whatever they want, and they suck it. And that's what I'm saying. Maybe you shouldn't see it as. I mean, you shouldn't see it as them begging for money. It's them taking money right out of the hands of the people who like them the most.
I think Andrew was joking.
I am joking, but it is very. It comes off a little pathetic that, like, no matter what I interact with, I'm constantly reminded that there is a battle pass or a store that I can buy from. It's like, all right, well. It'd be really annoying if I went to like a grocery store and bought some milk and someone was like, "Hey, did you know that cookies exist?" I'm like, "Yes, I'm fucking aware. I don't need you to remind me every time I pick up milk, because you know what? It's getting kind of annoying and I don't want to buy milk anymore. Maybe I'm just going to stop coming here altogether if you keep reminding me." And then I just haven't played Halo Infinite ever. And I wonder why that is. What happened there? I was
gonna say, I think you're describing Rayleigh's like coupon system, where they keep being like, "Be sure to come back in a week to buy these things for this discount, or they're gonna be gone."
Because I don't take the receipt. Fucking losers! Goodbye. I paid for it digitally, and leave off. I don't have to deal with that. But sorry, I was trying to stab me in the back. No, I don't understand how it doesn't, like, it just, the most unappealing thing is when you start a game and the first thing it tells you is, "Hey, you should spend money." It's like, I'm sorry, did I just accidentally stumble into a Ponzi scheme? What happened here? Why am I being inundated and asked and demanded of money when I haven't even started? I don't even know if I like this game and you're asking me for money already. That's a little.
I was watching a video about the new player experience of Destiny 2. And apparently when you launch the game, it just gives you a full screen slide of like every single DLC pack and expansion that's ever been made, one at a time, back to back, before you can even feel what the game is like. And it's like 10. Yeah. Like it just keeps going for so long that it genuinely feels like a prank or a joke.
And it's not even for new players. I've never bought a single thing in Destiny 2. Besides stupidly buying Destiny 2. Because what a fool I was to buy a game when it would have just gone free to play anyways. What a fucking idiot. And so I bought Destiny 2 and nothing else, because I beat Destiny 2 and I said, that's it. You can't make this game any better and you can't make it any worse. It is such bad trash that I'm just going to walk away and I'm done. And so then it comes out with a fuck ton of new DLC. And so I went back to it like a couple of days ago, and it is no joke, like 10 fucking slides that you cannot just skip or mass skip through or quickly skip through. You just have to, it loads, press. It loads, press. It's like, what the fuck? What am I doing? Can I just get to the game? Like, it's just, it is insane. And all of this just to remind you, like, did you know that there is this intense story that you can go watch? And it's like, well, is it in Destiny? It's like, well, yeah, well, then I don't want to play it. Why would I want to play it? It's a Destiny story. I don't want that. I'm not here for that. I'm here for like
But
just
Destiny
turning
has
my brain off and not
things.
thinking about anything. You don't play Destiny because you're engaged or involved. You play it because you want to not think about something for like a couple of hours and go and do the same exact fucking Vanguard missions you've done literally the past 6 years. It's fine. That's just the whole point of Destiny. It's the appeal. It's like playing WoW Classic. No one boots up WoW Classic because they want to like do anything crazy. They just want to like play the game they remember with their brain turned off and having fun and like, wow, this is great. It would be really annoying if like every time you booted up WoW Classic, it's like, by the way, did you know you could buy 15 mounts right now for $39.99? You'd be like, look, man, I just came here to ask myself why I haven't stopped playing WoW in 50 years. I didn't come here for any of the store. I don't know what that is, and I'm quite frankly scared of it. I just want to go back to 2005. Please leave my old bones alone. That is pretty much it. That's all. That's all people want. I don't know. I want to go back to Halo 2 where I booted up the game and it was like, "Do you want to play campaign or multiplayer?" And that was all it asked me. It didn't need my credit card info. It didn't want to remind me that I'm like a pathetic loser because I didn't want to buy cat ears. None of that. It didn't have to shame me for deciding to play Halo 2 6 weeks later. It's not my fault that I had a life going on. I didn't need to be reminded that I'm a loser for having one. Oh man, you missed out on half the battle pass and now you're not going to have time? Do you want to pay $30 to get halfway through the battle pass? And I'm like, no, I don't want to stop.
Jesus Christ, they do that?
Why are you like this? Yeah. They remind you that you can buy a skip for the battle pass and get halfway through it because it's almost over. You don't want to miss out on the cool products and colors. And it's like, dude, could you imagine if
you can essentially buy the battle pass twice?
Yeah, you could. But it's so much. Like I could not imagine going anywhere. Like if I went to anything in real life and someone was that aggressive to sell me something, I would probably commit an assault and leave. Like there's no way that would be tolerable in real life. But people just accept it because it's a video game and just excuse it. Like, oh, those poor game devs, they need that money. It's expensive to have a game.
Who says that? Like, who says that? The money doesn't go to the people, devs. They're underpaid and ununionized. And they work under terrible conditions. And the money all goes for the publishers. And
so the thing is people
the real tragedy behind it. They will, because they're sold this, like these lies are not told. I mean, they're eventually told by players, but they're born out of the marketing departments of companies that are trying to justify this nonsense. The real tragedy is that workers are not paid for their work. But the other tragedy is that all the monetization that we see in gaming these days, what we're talking about, and the end result is that there's fewer games. And we've talked about this as well before, but it's not, obviously you see that in Blizzard and you see that in Rockstar. And basically what this means is that there's more of a pressure of monetizing already existing games and dumping development time into already existing games. And then games that are being developed, they're more under pressure of being extreme successes, which means there's fewer of them because they'll just get canceled if they don't, like before release, they'll get canceled if like there's no provision, or what's the word for, they don't foresee the monetization working very well. And that's why there's fewer games from enormous companies.
But
go ahead.
I feel like there's a lot of but I feel like there's a lot of what's the word? There seems to be a really bad mismanagement in video game industries, mostly from management, obviously, but there seems to be a really bad understanding of what constitutes a good game And it's not a game that is stunningly beautiful to look at. It's a game that's fun to play. Like that's the whole fucking point. I can go look at way more stunning things outside.
Well, nobody who
just
makes
walk
video
outside.
games is incentivized to make good games.
Yes.
Well, yeah,
They're just incentivized to make profitable games. And people keep fucking buying this stuff. They keep engaging with these monetization structures, which means there you go. Like that's why it's profitable. People are so mad. I saw that guy that I don't mind it. I saw the guy that like spent so much money on Diablo Immortal, over $100,000, that he literally can't play the game anymore because he can't matchmake with people, anyone anymore, because he spent so much money. And people are so mad in the comments at that guy specifically. He's like, people like you are why this game exists and so on. And it's like, is he though? It's like people like him are a symptom. He's an example of why the games exist, but he's not like the person specifically. He's an influencer. He's one of those people that like, he's making money off of the microtransactions, so he keeps feeding it back into the mic. There's a lot of people that do this. There's a lot of YouTubers and streamers that very specifically make a living off of engaging with the monetization structures of these games, because people just fucking Twitch donate them, and then they just feed that directly back into the game, and then they're making a living off of that, which is absurd.
I think they are equally as bad as the developers for making the system. Like they are.
It's the opening loot boxes, the CS Lotto kind of thing. It's the same basic fundamental.
And I mean, it's the same people do that for like opening packs of Pokemon cards and shit, dude. When you engage, like even if someone's even if it's not your own money being engaged into the system, when you pay money into a bad system, you're rewarding the bad system for existing, regardless of whether or not it's, like if this guy didn't spend 10,000 of his own fucking hard-earned cash, cool, that's good for you, bud. I'm glad you managed to trick a bunch of people to pay you to have things so you can't play a game anymore. That's smart.
100,000.
Like. Or whatever, 100,000. You know what? 15 million. I don't care. Whatever. The whole every celebrity has a brand of fucking cosmetics or whatever, and people buy that shit. You're just funding these people, and then they just ruin your life somehow. The point being is that just because it's not your money that you're using to engage in a bad system doesn't mean that you're not helping the bad system continue existing. Because then companies say like, hey, if we just make a game that streamers like to play, then they'll all want the battle pass, right? Because they get paid for doing the game, and they can use it on the battle pass. And then we have loot boxes, which they'll obviously fucking people will pay them to do. Like they'll just feed off of you. They'll leech off of you and say like, we can just find a way to harvest these people who are gullible enough to sell themselves out to giving money to us.
I'm just imagining the incentive structure. People. Like if I stream Overwatch 2, there's this like people will be complaining I'm not playing as the new character, and like, why don't you get the new character? Why have you bought the new character? Because they're like still behind a purchase wall. Because they want the influencer needs to go do the thing with the stuff. It's a very strange experience, like knowing that there's people who make a living off of not making loot boxes but opening them. Like there are influencers who just open video game loot boxes and then get donations, and they keep opening more, or they open like Pokemon card packs and just look at the cards I got over and over again, and that's just like
that's every Genshin Impact stream is just watching
and that's just
someone.
like a thing people like to watch for some reason, and I'm like, I'm so confused by what people find entertaining, because it's my job to do that, and I'm like, I don't want to do that though.
What I'm finding interesting is that somehow it's the streamer's fault and not the viewer's fault. Obviously, the real fault is the companies that make the monetization systems. The companies are the reason the monetization system, because they're the ones feeding the big streamers that do that. If it weren't for kids looking at, I say kids, but it's younger. It tends to be younger demographics looking at people playing high level Diablo Immortal characters and being like, oh, look at all the numbers. And look at how much this guy spent $100 million in this game. It's so dumb, and donate and whatnot. Obviously it's nobody's fault. None of those people are at fault. They're just following the system. The system being created by the companies who make the games. The companies who make the games are the ones that are at fault. It's not
I would say it's companies.
The games exist.
I think it's companies, streamers, and then viewers. Viewers are just being conditioned to think that this is fun and entertaining to watch because everybody else is doing that. But the streamers are the one doing that to those viewers, and the companies are the ones that are profiting off of those streamers that are doing that to those viewers. So I would say that like viewers are just poor suckers being tricked into something, whereas the streamers and the companies are the ones that are like exploiting these poor people.
I don't know if people legitimately have fun watching a streamer with like smurfed characters or whatever.
You just think it's fun. It's not actually fun.
Well, that's how fun works.
Think it's fun.
You thinking. No, that's how fun works.
No, you can be convinced. That's Stockholm syndrome exists. You can be tricked into thinking something's fun when it's not fun.
Stockholm
it does.
No, it doesn't. It's been debunked. But what I'm saying is fun is it's all in your mind. Like if it is there in your mind, then it is real. Like you can't prove.
Well, then you need a new mind. I need you to.
If you don't like having fun, that's the thing for sure. If you're in a situation where what's fun for you is bad for you, then that's bad, obviously. But just watching somebody opening loot boxes is not bad for you necessarily, unless obviously if you have like addictive personality and stuff like that. That's different. But
I guess on a societal level, it is like the real blame here is just government. Like if you
the companies and capitalism.
Just use your government. If a government made loot boxes under the same rules as gambling is, it can't be towards children. It has to be paid taxes for, expensive taxes. And then it becomes unincentivized to do it because you're like, I don't want to pay taxes to government. Fuck the government. I'm going to find another monetization scheme. Like, they will, but they won't have fun. They won't make as much money. Obviously, the target demographic, children, can't be persuaded into buying it. Like, Fortnite loses itself completely if you can't have loot boxes and battle pass systems with children involved. Like,
they'll just make
that's going to be a problem.
And it's like slightly
different.
They will, and it's more marketed towards adults, and it just works.
But if you just slowly make something more and more annoying to do, then people won't do it. And I think you can easily find a way to make that possible from a government standpoint. You can definitely legally stranglehold those kind of systems.
There's the problem is this: there's no incentive for governments to
tax
outlaw. No. No, you're right. You're right in what you're saying. But let me finish. There's no incentive for governments to outlaw scummy practices like microtransactions and stuff like that, because it doesn't, rather than it not, it's not that it doesn't affect the government's bottom line, is that the tax that they pay is good for the government. So if companies are taxed normally, which they're not, because as we know, Activision actually receives tax refunds instead of paying taxes, but still, as a principle, if it weren't more corrupt than it is normally under capitalism, on principle, governments would be like, what do I care if these companies are exploiting their users? They're making hand over fists on money, and I'm getting taxes for that. That's good for me as a government, right? So there's no incentive behind the government unless the government is looking at things from a justice and fairness perspective. And obviously, if the government is trying to shape the nature and the what's the word? Sort of the landscape of gaming, because obviously microtransactions are fucking up gaming. But if the government is the one that, gaming is bad right now, let's do away with microtransactions. Obviously, the government is never going to do that, and it raises a whole lot of problems, particularly in the US, but everywhere in democratic Europe and other places, where the governments don't do that because that's a violation of free speech. You can't just fuck up. You can't bring in the government to fix gaming. That's never going to happen.
I wonder when I'm going to get when am I going to get credit card offers where I can get bonus points for buying loot boxes and battle passes. Where's my gamer credit card? That's what I feel like I'm really. No, it doesn't, because
my Call of Duty sponsored Monster Can credit card.
Oh my god, that'd be amazing!
It just keeps looping the layered branding.
I would recycle Monster Cans and turn them into credit cards for gamers, and those credit cards are good for like 4 times points for if you buy loot boxes and battle passes, and you can exchange them 4 more loot boxes and battle passes. That's what the whole points are for, to get more loot boxes and battle passes. And then we'll do sponsorship deals that if you like donate 500 bits to a Twitch streamer, then you can get like 4 times bonus points or whatever in your card. It'll be perfect. A gamer credit card. That is exactly what we need. That's what I'm talking about. Because if there's one thing that that ruins everything, it's banks. And that will be a quick way to ruin something. Is at the moment you start doing that, then they'll be upset about it. They'll be like, wait a second.
It's kind of funny that
where are you getting all this?
Facebook is like pursuing their own completely detached from reality goal of getting people to pay for virtual stuff. That like if they synergized with bigger gaming companies at large, Facebook would just wreck shit. It'd be the worst thing. So what I'm referring to is the metaverse, and metaverse is basically a long-term objective of getting people to pay for Farmville forever and just pay money for things that are not manufactured. They're just digital things, which, as you can imagine, has unlimited profit margin because there's no expense apart from the servers, which Facebook already spends a bunch of money on.
It's the thing that is the horror of Ready Player One.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like it's supposed to be like it's clearly a bad thing. It's why I'm always baffled when people are like, wow, could you imagine if Ready Player One was real? And I'm like, no, what? No, the game in Ready Player One is bad. It's like the one thing that the book got right. Like it's very bad.
Yeah, but like
right?
I didn't watch the movie. It's based on Ready Player One.
Oh yeah.
What if you could go to high school as the Iron Giant though? That would be so cool.
Wow,
could
that's
you imagine?
so true.
You would never get
art.
bullied.
I'm not high school age. I can't go to high school.
That is the worst part.
Yeah, you can. No, who's going to know that you don't belong in high school? You're the Iron Giant. No one knows what you actually look like.
The single thing that most makes me regret buying a Valve Index is that when you enter the Steam VR thing, the stupid apartment that you spawn in has copies of Ready Player 2 and the Iron Giant like statue, which is not meant to be the Iron Giant from the Iron Giant, but the Iron Giant from the movie of Ready Player One. And I'm like, oh no, you didn't get the point of the. You didn't. It's not. This is not something to emulate. Ready Player One's not something to emulate. The fucking kid in that's the protagonist of that book can't even leave the environment that he spawned in without money, which he doesn't have. Like he has. Wait, like he can't do this whole adventure at first because he can't afford to leave his starting area. Like that's how monetized that game is. It's a fucking nightmare. But wow, I can have a skin of a guy and it's a fucking. We already have this for free in VR chat. What are you doing?
Yeah, there is this like really unfortunate misunderstanding that in order to upkeep or to maintain the level of progress we keep making in video games, we have to keep enduring bad systems. Because like, oh man, yeah, but we're only paying for loot boxes now, but then the next game they make is going to be like even better because of all the money we spent or whatever. And but then you like turn around, you look at like indie games that will do something 100 times more cohesive and stronger. It just doesn't look like a modern AAA game, and you're like, man, I don't know how this guy alone managed to do something that a whole team of people just couldn't seem to do. That's weird. I wonder what happened to all that loot box money. And that's I feel like that's kind of like what Ready Player One was, is that it's a society that just continually kept running towards this system, even though it was bad. It was like, yeah, but look how much progress we're making. People don't even have to be physically out of school anymore. And you're like, yeah, okay, slow down though, because there's like, you can clearly see that there's some not long-term stable circumstances.
How do we make sure that the metaverse still has class disparity?
Yeah, exactly. But and I mean, real metaverse will, like they're talking about like shopping at Walmart or wherever. And it's like, but I would love to shop at Walmart on my $300 VR headset. What the fuck am I going to be doing? Why would I be shopping at Walmart if I have a Valve Index? I'm not going to be doing that. That's weird. That is like,
you don't have any more money because it costs so much.
Yeah, it's not exactly. I'm not the target demographic anymore because I'm literally in poverty. in order to shop in VR, I must put myself into poverty to do it. Why would I want to do this? It's such a dumb, like, it is like, imagine if you made a society where everyone had to have a car, but cars costed way too much money to have. That would be a really bad system.
Society.
And you could,
then you get a fake car.
Then you get a fake car. What, a bicycle?
The metaverse features you buy a picture of a car.
Yeah.
And they get increasingly expensive.
If I go in
remember that one time that there was like a hyper rich person app on fucking iPhones or whatever, where you just got like a picture of a gemstone for like $10,000, and that was the app.
Yeah, you could buy it,
and it was just called like I Am Rich or something. And now that's just unironically where things try to go as much as they can. Like that one quirk thing became an entire business practice of like, how do we court every whale? The whales from Death Stranding. Boom, full circle back to the beginning of the podcast.
Damn, that was fast.
I did it.
Can't believe
John Cena, something.
I am a genius. Hank Green wrote better books. And absolutely remarkable things about social media and punditry and radicalization, and A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor. The sequel is about the metaverse.
Nice.
And I read them, and presumably other people did, but I've never met them before. I've never met a single person who has read these books.
Yeah, I don't. I try not to read books as much as I possibly can. I have found that it is only a painful experience.
But I like reading, but it does take like a certain immersion, which means I need to have
a state of mind and like a lot of time. And
the time
it's
like, but what about all of my goals?
Yeah, is if your head is somewhere else, if you have to think about other things, for me at least, it's difficult to concentrate into reading.
Yeah,
and that's why I have an easier time with fiction, because fiction, it's a different thing. So I'm like immersed in the world of whatever.
I just don't have the time. I've got too many other things I need to consume. I don't have time to consume books too. Like at some point I have to be a person.
And
they're very difficult to eat.
That's why this podcast is sponsored by
You're right.
We're not sponsored by
You're right there.
Yeah, you can if you go on Audible right now, you can listen to this podcast in an audio format.
We're not sponsored. You shouldn't say their name.
You get the audiobook of this podcast.
Yeah, why are you reading this podcast?
It's narrated by Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Next week we'll be selling a picture of the podcast as an NFT.
He's just doing every role. That would be very exhausting.
Yeah, he played himself and Bruce Willis once, so like he could do a third. He could pull off a Portuguese accent.
It's not hard to play Bruce Willis in any.
I don't have
anybody can pretend to be Bruce Willis.
Speaking of Portuguese, the new Overwatch map is in Portugal.
Oh yeah,
it is. Yeah,
it's got the color buildings.
It's funny.
All of
I don't think it's the colored buildings, but not after our flag is just colorful. When I went to Spain, Sevilla specifically, the buildings they're all red and yellow. It's like the flag everywhere. It's kind of weird. It's like, oh, I'm in Spain all of a sudden. It's like going to the US and all the buildings are red, white, and blue. It's just it's really jarring. I mean,
that's
don't
what
get me
Washington
wrong.
D.C. looks like. Every building is just the American flag painted over.
The American flag.
It's very confusing.
Don't get me wrong. Sevilla is really, really good.
You just fly over the city and you can see the whole flag.
The whole flag.
That would be pretty cool. I would have to say I'm willing to pay tax dollars for that. That's fine.
If they colored our roofs that way.
They could probably arrange the highways.
The whole town just looks like a photo collage.
The highways would do it because it's the rear of the cars would be the red, the front of the cars would be the white, and the cops would be the blue. There you go.
How much would it cost to do that? Like I want to be able to write a message for space in the United States. I want, like, they always say that lie that the Great Wall of China is visible from space, which it's not, because
it is.
No,
but people are visible from space.
It is
not that far away.
From space. You can't.
It's not that far away.
How visible?
Well,
you cannot. Okay, if I take a picture of the Earth from the ISS, I can't see the fucking Great Wall of China, which means it's not visible from space. Just because you're a little bit above. Why? What do you mean? Why can't you see it?
Have you seen Google Earth pictures? The satellites fly over the ISS.
Those satellites have camera lenses that are insanely big to zoom in insanely close.
But again, if you're space, though.
No, I need it so that if I take my iPhone out inside of the ISS and I take a picture from the stupid viewport, I can see something on the Earth. If I can't do that, it doesn't count.
You could see the. So, I'm sure you could see the.
You cannot see the Great Wall of China because I have seen the stupid picture of China from the ISS, and you cannot see it. I promise you,
ISS
it's not
flies
visible.
Low. It's only like 400 kilometers above.
And you still can't see the stupid bridge because guess what? The Great Wall of China isn't very colorful. It's not very easy to see a fucking brown object on the Earth. Like shit. Like what a bad design. So I would like to create a giant billboard that exists for space, but I want to take up basically all of the United States. I want it from the start to the end, and I want to be able to see that, like, read a message from space. And I want that message to say, turn around now, this is your last chance. And I want that to be there so that any aliens that show up, they get an easy warning.
English.
So they don't have to speak English. They have technology that can speak English. It's fine.
No, and it's not like Transformers.
I'm sure it will be like Transformers. It'll be just like Transformers.
Tell Andrew that it's not like Transformers.
I'm telling you, every alien has evil chromosomes. I looked it up out of
curiosity, and like the Great Wall of China is not. It's not big. It's very long, obviously.
2,000 kilometers. Yeah,
it's very long.
It's long, but it's not
very
big.
Not
it's thin.
Big,
how would you see it?
It's a wall. How big do you think it would be? It's like
I just mean like it's. I mean, I would more expect to see the pyramids from space than the Great Wall of China. Like it's so thin that you would immediately not see it.
It's true. You can probably see like highways and things a lot better than the.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Great Wall of China. I'm like, most roads are bigger than this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like this is not remarkable as far as being visible from space. This is remarkable for several other reasons, but like that's not what it would be good at.
There's also
anyway, you were talking about the evil chromosomes. A call back to us watching Transformers 5 in theaters with Joe.
The evil chromosomes?
It was great.
Is that
it infected us with his evil chromosomes? Is a real line from that line, and that's the moment where I never watched another Transformers movie.
Yeah, Decepticons have evil chromosomes. Well, specifically Megatron has evil chromosomes.
Yeah,
I was Transformers too.
Even though they're robots.
Look, everything can have chromosomes.
I only watched 1, 2, and 4, and I regretted it every time.
They sell chromosomes in like little packets. You can just glue them to your skin, and it's just like you have chromosomes now.
I don't think that's how that works.
And then you wake up in the next morning, and the patch is all dirty because all the it's like.
Wouldn't that mean that atoms have chromosomes?
Atoms don't have chromosomes, but that's because they haven't evolved yet. Maybe.
But atoms make up me, which means they have to have chromosomes because I'm made of chromosomes.
It's like the working class.
There's a sort of operations here that you got reversed.
It's like the working class. The working class make the iPhone, but they don't have the iPhone. It's the people who.
But atoms together joined create a chromosome. So obviously atoms have chromosomes.
Tell Andrew that it's not like that.
I mean, see the 30-minute highlight or compilation or whatever called "Back to School with Andrew." I've made my efforts. I've put my time in.
I remember that.
It's just moments of zero escape where I explain scientific concepts to Andrew, and for seemingly the first time.
Well, look, it's not like I'm going to learn this stuff in public school.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
People not grasping basic scientific notions.
No, because they don't get paid enough to give me enough attention to teach me anything. And I wasn't going to pay attention because it's free. You can't lose money on not paying attention in school. It's a free thing.
Is that the reason?
I'm not going to pay attention in school. It's not even a battle pass.
Yeah, exactly. What am I? I'm not even leveling up.
DLC? He was on the free track
what
of
am I
school,
even getting?
so he didn't get any of the.
Yeah, why would I care? What was the point? All I get is like a grade up every couple of years. I don't want that. Like, if you go to private school, at least you get like new outfits and stuff. So all I'm saying is I'm not going to put any effort.
You don't have to buy them?
Yeah. Well, you have to, you buy the battle pass too. You don't get a free battle pass. So,
well, you do if you live in the 60s. Did you know
if my parents put me through battle pass school, I would be fine. But I didn't go to battle pass school, so I didn't pay attention.
Did you know that in the US in the 60s, tuition adjusted for inflation was in less than $1,000 a year?
Yeah, but did they have? Wait, when did
adjusted for inflation? We're talking about adjusted for inflation. Going to a high, like a proper school. The interesting thing is, like, this sounds unbelievable, but actually the relationship between high tuition and in the US in specific, between high tuition and affordability, or rather, the reason why tuition is high right now is just to make sure that the correct people go to university and stuff like that.
Wait, wasn't
because instead of back then, it was only the people who actually qualified for university. So it'd be fine because the plebs they can't qualify because they don't have the smarts. Also, it was in the 60s, so the black people also wouldn't because they're black.
I was gonna say, wasn't segregation like super like super strong?
So that did the work. I mean, that did the work,
well,
and so
why
after
it was
segregation,
so cheap.
And exactly, and after segregation, and after the bettering of public education, more and more people who weren't rich were able to qualify for university. So let's just bring up the price, because that way it's still only the rich that can attend. And obviously things change a little, but still.
These days it's 1 hour into the podcast. We got our first live question.
Yes.
They eventually
was it Breed?
Did it. It was why are video game romances so bad, and how would you fix them?
That's very true. I like that. I like that question. They are really bad.
What's funny is that I was at PAX and there was a panel about this, and I didn't go to it.
Oh
damn!
It was on my schedule, but I think Toaster had a Guilty Gear tournament at the same time, so I went to that.
Yeah, fair enough.
And then it's like, well, there goes that, because the panels. There's enough panels that they happen at the same time. They're competing for attention.
Yeah,
I would say
wasn't there.
I would say the solution here is if you're allowed to customize your romance. Like, if you're allowed to choose what the person you're romancing looks like, I think that would make video game romances a lot better. I think that is the solution.
They just need to be gayer.
I mean, that's
like half the
problem.
but
it's video game writing. It's never going to be good. You're not going to enjoy the representation you're going to get. It's always going to be like hollow, shallow, and sad. Because video game writing is cartoonish. It's like
queer romance is always better
adults.
written. Like, it's so much more common for queer romance to be better written than straight romance in video games. And
I mean, a lot of the time it's just indie. Like, somebody gets the chance to just write stuff themselves tends to be something that goes better than something written by other people and whatnot. But like, also, like, romance is weird because like there's so many caveats you gotta put in here about what you even mean by a video game romance and what you mean by video game. Because obviously,
you're talking like BioShock or a VN? Because
that's what I'm about to say. Yeah, like, there are so many visual novels that are very specifically much better at this kind of thing. Partly because it's often one person's uncompromised version of the story they're trying to tell, and they can have whatever representation they want without having to like get through a factory process bullshit of like people being like, well, that's not marketable or whatever. But it's also like there's also like a lack of gameplay in visual novels, because there's just the question of just like, how do you like systemize the romance, which in BioWare's version, for example, and in a bunch of other games versions, it's often like, how do I need to make like a meter. This person has a meter that's either visible or invisible, and you like make the right dialogue choices and or give them gifts to like hit some threshold, and then it's like, now you get to see the cutscene. And so I guess there's an issue, which is that like we have extremely limited interactive storytelling in video games in general. So like even in games that are interactive video games, like an RPG, like a BioWare game or whatever, when you get to this part of the game, you end up just unlocking a series of pre-written cutscenes anyway. Like the best writing is in visual novels, and then every other game, when it's having its best writing, is often basically being a visual novel in the middle of being another game. Like you just watch the story play out anyway.
I agree with this. I think
I just like
it's not necessarily always like that though. Like for example, I felt that Thane. I don't know that Thane is in Mass Effect 2 is romanceable. Or is he? No, he is, right? You just don't get a sex scene with him. But I thought that Thane was really interestingly written in Mass Effect 2, as in his relationship, romantic or not, his relationship with Shepard was interestingly written because it came across. Despite I have some problems with Thane, and if you're forgetting who Thane is, it's the fish person who has perfect memory and whatnot. He's an assassin or something. But his dialogue was very earnest and very vulnerable. By design, it was written as a vulnerable writing, and I think that is the biggest problem of cliche romance, is that the writers don't allow themselves to be vulnerable themselves as writers, as people, and so the writing comes across as either functional or maybe utilitarian might be a better word, where in some games it's just a means to, like for example, The Witcher 3 has romance where the writing is just to get to the sex scenes, and it is written like that. So that's one side effect of the writers not being vulnerable. The other side effect, or the other possible side effect, is instead of being functional writing, it's cringy writing. Things like bad jokes or like pandering to an audience that already has mimetically ingrained jokes about whatever is going on. And I see that every once in a while. I go back a little to Wind Waker. Is it Wind Waker? The one where you can fly, Keith?
That's Skyward Sword.
No,
Skyward Sword.
Yeah, that's Skyward Sword.
Wind Waker is the one where you can row. I think in Skyward Sword there's a line, and obviously Zelda is a relatively romance light series as games. It doesn't have much romance, but what is there is written in very.
Zelda has romance?
Yeah, of course. It's just what?
I found the image of female Shepard and Thane hugging and cuddling in bed, but Thane has that massive collar around him.
Oh,
this pop collar, so it just stabs straight through her face. And like they couldn't have planned based on like what he looks like. That animation. Oh my god.
Especially because it's the only This
is the legendary edition.
Wait, isn't that a Del Toro
what I was going to say about
movie?
But I went to check, and yes, you do romance Thane.
Yeah. What I was going to say about Skyward Sword is that there's one line where I don't remember the name of the character, but there's Link's rival, and he's saying, "Oh, I'm going to win this tournament, and then I'm going to have a special moment with Zelda in the Cloud Top Temple," or something to that extent. And Zelda reacts, "A special moment? What are you talking about?" Which I thought was interesting because she didn't say, "You're gonna have with me," or "You're why would I be with you," or something to that extent. She said she was specifically objecting to the fact that it was going to be a special moment, and so I made a comment in Keith's video about Zelda being canonically aromantic, which they are written like that. The romance of Link and Zelda is written in an aromantic way. Whether it's definitely not on purpose in the old games, but it's written like that because there's a conscious decision to make this for kids, and let's not make this very adult. The side effect is that the writers, they're not letting themselves be honest about what they're writing, and so the end result is that it's very weird that Zelda would object specifically to it being a special moment rather than to being with him or to being with her or she liking Link or whatever. But that's just like one of the things. It's like, if you want to write good romance, it needs to come from a vulnerable place. It doesn't have to come from the heart in the sense of that you don't have to feel those emotions yourself. You can think them up and like strategize and do all the normal things that writers do. You don't need to be in love to write romance, but you need to be honest. You need to be like, at least unless you're like a really, really good writer, then maybe honesty doesn't matter anymore. But when does that happen in video games, right? So it just needs to come across as honest. It's like I don't know.
I mean,
it's just so common.
The vulnerability is very important. Like that's part of a lot of intimacy is vulnerability and trust and being very sincere with somebody. And that is a struggle with video games because one, it's very difficult for almost any game to characterize any character, especially player characters, as being like fully people outside of like The Last of Us and some other games. Like it's often a struggle to make the player avatar feel like a complex character to begin with. And then if you make them a role-playing character, they're a weird blank slate that doesn't feel like a person at all. And like you can't really like be like, oh, here's my deepest insecurities and struggles and so on, when it's like a weird, like, I picked one of 3 backstories for Commander Shepard. He was a spacer, and like there's no like, you're just like picking options from somebody else's list and making like a weird Lego character, and so like they never feel like an equal half. So it's like it ends up being a situation where like the best you can do is expose a lot about the other person, which is sometimes what Mass Effect does with characters like Thane or Jack so on, or even Sarah from Dragon Age Inquisition. I think I didn't play as a lady, so I couldn't go down that path. But like there are characters that you can develop more and more, and like that breakthrough of like the point where you have one understanding of a character, and then by the end of the romance arc you have a completely different understanding of that character. Like that's one of the best things you can do, especially since you can't actually directly interface. Like you can't admit your own insecurities and push past those things in a video game in the direct way. But I think that's why queer romance works so well in video games that do have it, is because you're filtering down your audience and character to be closer together just by the sheer factor of like who's going to play this game and so on. And so you end up with these really specific things that are more relatable to everybody because you're filtering down to just the people that will have those feelings, and then you can deal with that. Like Ad Astra very specifically deals with emotions with Amicus and him having a difficult past of like hiding himself and who he is, and having one moment where he made the mistake of trusting somebody and being punished for that, and like the trauma that lingers from that, to the point where like by the time you get to the end of the game, that there's an option to whether he's going to top or bottom. And that's just like the go-to, like, oh, let's just pick a sex scene moment that's in a lot of games. But like that has so much resonance to his character and what was leading up to that point that it's actually a really important choice. And just the fact that it's even there is a huge step for his character based on all the context that was built up to that point. And that's actual writing. That's people. That's humans, ironically, even though it's a wolf.
Yeah. I think, well, visual novels have the advantage of being able to put so much more thought into the player character that role-playing games don't. Just out of the nature of your characters can, well, role-playing games can have your character say a lot of things as well, but like Marco in Ad Astra just says so many things, and it happens in visual novels as well, where like one of the details that I noticed, and I was paying attention in Ad Astra specifically, I was paying attention to like the more utilitarian ways of conveying meaning behind the writing. One of the things is how he starts to use the expression "my wolf" when referring to Amicus. and like that tells a story, just that little detail. But it's in a mixture of a lot of things, and you can't do that as easily. Like, or rather, you can do that in role playing games, but you can't just sneak that in there. It needs to be. It's either very blatant to the player because you're choosing that line, or you have a system where maybe it's a little bit like The Witcher, where your player character just says things without you having them selected, which I think also works. And I think it's one of the reasons why The Witcher, specifically The Witcher 3 romantic scenes work well, is because it's just out of your hands. They can do whatever. Instead of like maybe Baldur's Gate 2, for example, Jaheira is probably considered to be one of the best romances of old school RPGs. But not only is it very difficult to get to the end of that romance, a lot of the difficulty comes from the fact that you have to choose the right options. So it's like you have to start saying "my wolf" even to yourself at the right time in Adastra. Otherwise, you don't get the good ending, or you don't get the romantic ending. You know what I mean? Which I think, if in a short game, that works. Like the notion of maybe getting different reactions out of the same person based on your actions or based on the person you're role playing, I think that's fine as well. It's just that romance doesn't work like that. Often, like, people love each other at the knife's edge. I get the feeling that, like, people develop feelings for each other, and then if one thing doesn't work quite the same as it, or like, if one thing is different, maybe there it is that they're not lovers anymore, or like it's all in the details.
I am very like romance agnostic when it comes to video games. I do not engage.
Your primary verb is shoot character in face.
Yeah, I mean, because most games.
Oh, this guy seems to have lines. I know how to fix this.
Yeah, most of the time that I play games that have romance, they're RPGs, and in RPGs, my go-to is full chaotic. Is always just like I've said, is just God mode. So like it. I think the only time I've ever interacted with a romance was before this mindset, which was like Mass Effect. And even then, the only character I think I romanced was Tali, because it was the least romantic character to romance. It was like she didn't really do much or didn't like say much about it. It wasn't really a lot of effort like it was with the other characters. It like you didn't. There just wasn't a lot involved because obviously she can't really do anything. And so you're just kind of like, oh, cool. Yeah, we like each other, whatever. And then you just move on from it. You don't have to deal with it anymore. Whereas like a visual novel, obviously a visual novel, the goal is to go out with somebody. That's usually the whole point. So, and even still, it's not that I'm invested in that character. It's that like, I'm treating it as if that's how you beat it. It's like, oh, you need to go down this route to win. It's not that I'm invested in the character. Yeah, exactly. I treat it like in a game, I'm playing a game, and games need to be won, and that's like the way that my brain goes about it. So romance is just like a mission. It's a side quest. Like I just got to deal with you, and then we'll be done with this. Like it's not about getting invested. It's about like what can I do to get you to not interact with me any more than possible. Is that involves completing your quest? Let's get it done, and then goodbye. And then I'm gonna go back to doing the thing that I'm here for, which is the video game. And like
I wonder.
It just
like you're right in doing that though.
Andrew's straight up like, I will defeat this romance in the marketplace of ideas.
But games do that. Games force you to think like, well, not force you, but they train us to think like that. Like the last time I played Knights of the Old Republic, the original one, my character, I'm trying to remember my motivation, but I specifically didn't go for Bastila as a romance option. I said no, it's no, yeah. But the thing is, like, she's written as the main romance, and me choosing to not go for that romance leads to such cringy moments, and it's so bad. It's like bordering on nonsensical.
The game is like, strangely written like you romanced her already.
Yeah. But like it's blatantly, the game is written with, of course people are gonna romance Bastila. Have you seen her nose? Because
I like how what you just sound like you have a really weird like like parasocial relationship with this person. Like you act like you know too much, like you're so involved in their life or whatever. But this person's like, I don't even know you. What do you want?
Yeah, exactly. My Let's Play was like, lady, this is a Wendy's. I don't know what you're talking about. And I just moved on. I don't know. I think I don't remember. I don't remember at the time. I think I wanted my character to be gay, and I wanted to try and see if there was a game romance in that game. There isn't.
There's an accidental gay romance in that game.
Oh yeah, but my character was man.
So. Accidental? Yeah. You just stumble upon it? Oh God, I didn't even realize. No. Oh, I'm so sorry. Like,
if you play a woman, you can romance the cat lady, and that's, as far as I'm aware, that's a mistake.
Oh.
yeah.
That's actually
games just came out half broken. Like that was just
that was
kind of always been normal.
That used to be a really important reason I chose female characters in games, was because I knew they didn't get romance options. Because they were usually excluded from it. Most games were primarily built. Yeah, like for most games, not obviously not BioShock or whatever, or BioWare games, but BioWare games obviously didn't care. But a lot of games, like Barry, were particular about like males get a huge amount of romance options and women get like one. And it is so nice because you can just ignore a whole chunk of this like system. You're just like, I don't have to give a shit. I don't even have to interact with that one person that I like because they're probably like some side character I have to go out of my way for. Haha, and I can just keep running through it. And like Cyberpunk was like that, which was nice. Cyberpunk was very much like, here's like, there are 2 ladies you can go after, and then 1 guy. And like, okay, well, I'm not gonna go after the guy, obviously, because he's like some side character I have to deal with. And the other 2, I can easily just bounce around. I don't have to deal, like they're all like, oh, get really in depth. It's like, I don't got to deal with that, and I can just bounce away from it. So it was really nice. Like none of these weird, awkward, like I don't know. It almost feels like you're forced.
Yeah, exactly. You're touching on a very important point. Is that
I don't want to deal with it, but there's not like a turn off romance options. You can't be like, hey, none of that, please. And like that would be great. I wish if we're getting representation, can we get like a romantic what's it called, representation? I want the toggle in my settings menu to just turn it all off.
The thing with aromantic representation, and obviously I only speak for myself, is that the biggest obstacle, or rather, it's not an obstacle, but like the biggest representation you can get for aromantic people is to do away with the societal pressure of people romancing each other. And that happens in video games.
I was gonna say there's nothing more pressuring than someone telling you it's a mission. Like,
yeah. But like, so how are you gonna get to that point where, well, like I've played amazing games that have 0 romance. Pillars of Eternity 1, for example. I think Pillars of Eternity 2 also doesn't have romance. Pillars of Eternity 1 doesn't have romance and has some very, very touching scenes with certain characters. And like
BioShock doesn't have romance. It's very nice.
Well, it's an adventure thing, so it's
it's a love between one man and injecting himself full of plasmids. A lot of penetration.
Yeah, fair.
No, wrong response.
I think that's a very I think that's a very very overly generous interpretation of what plasmids are. Imagine like sensual music comes out of the stupid plasma dispenser or whatever. Yeah, like it just like a saxophone plays while you order your plasmid, put it in your arm, and like flowers come falling out of the top.
Yeah, George Michael.
I actually got to see. I got to see a George Michael, I think, or Careless Whisper.
I know it's George Michael, but which song is it?
Careless Whisper.
The saxophone. Oh, yeah, that's one. Yeah.
I was gonna use it as a gag in the Lego She video, but I forgot.
Dang it!
There's so many moving parts. It's gonna have the pink hearts on screen, and then and it's gonna say in cursive like they're just friends while that song's playing.
Congratulations on the 500,000 views, by the way.
Hey, numbers.
All the numbers.
It's interesting. It's interesting to be in the downhill part of my life where I've done the most impactful thing I'll ever do, and it's just over now. And so now I just ride the rest of my life out. Like, there we go.
Just you wait until the next one about a dash. It's gonna do numbers like nobody.
It might do numbers, but it won't be as important. Like that video.
I don't know.
I ended up pulling something off that like led to audience reactions that will not be replicated. Like it's
You
like
don't know that.
it has had a bizarre effect on just so many people's lives in a way that is difficult to emotionally process.
Imagine how much pain you're going to cause people with your next one.
Think about it like this:
Zero Escape is garbage news. Why?
H-Bomber Guy released the Fallout 3 sucks video, and it was like what it was. And then a few years later, he was on a live stream raising millions of dollars for charity with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Josh Sir and a bunch of other things. So, you know, it's gonna happen to you as well.
Yeah, we'll just set the expectations high now, and then
I mean,
disappoint ourselves later.
I'm confident. I'm pretty confident that someday in the future you will beat Donkey Kong Country 64 and have a moderately okay time with it, and that's the expectation I will have. Everything else, if you have
the associated actions.
I ever want to play that game.
The game looks so bad. Charity over any game. It's fine. We don't have to do it with Donkey Kong.
Make Andrew
could you do it over a clicker
Perfect
game?
Dark on dark difficulty with me?
Oh my god! Didn't we already do that? Or what
I think we did Perfect Agent.
Perfect. Oh my god, Jesus! What is fucking Rock Guy gonna be like on dark difficulty?
I think there was a harder difficulty that whole time, but we were like, no.
Fuck, is he gonna just teleport to us? What the fuck?
Nothing personal.
Straight up to a. He's just gonna like Dragon Ball teleport right behind us and shoot us every time we start the fucking map. We have to like be ready to do weird counters to characters because they just like show up out of nowhere. Oh my god, no! It's gonna be so
it's interesting that you're bringing up.
Wait.
We kept bringing up KOTOR and Baldur's Gate and stuff. I saw a panel by the guy who wrote those games, the lead writer. That was just like the lead writer of BioWare all the way up to like Dragon Age Inquisition or something, and then he left.
Gay there? But it wasn't the lead. Which one was it? Sam?
I'm bad at names.
I don't remember the names either.
It's not the Mass Effect author. Because Mass Effect was very specifically written by a different person. But this guy worked on Baldur's Gate, and he worked on KOTOR, and he worked on Dragon Age. And he didn't want to be a writer. So that's an interesting starting point. He got fired from his job, so he accepted this job as a writer, and he was basically just known for the sheer quantity of writing that he could put out. Like he was just a workhorse that could just get so much done so quickly, and that's like half the reason he has his job is like his ability to do that. So like it was interesting just hearing about his process with some of the stuff and the mess that is a lot of these games. And like, if you ever wondered like the question of like why are games like that? It's like the actual corporate structure behind how games get made is so messy and weird. Like half the people making the games don't have any control over how weird they turn out. And one of the elements of this was that like back then they would just write entire characters and then they'd get cut. So like those entire party members that just never came out for like Baldur's Gate and KOTOR and so on. And there's this whole thing where in the early days when they had voice acting, they did not cast the voice actors. They wrote the game, and then just a third party took care of the entire process. And so like there's like for example, there's a Baldur's Gate character that was some kind of elf or something, and like
is it Imoen?
This character got completely cut from the game and has never existed because like I think they were supposed to be like a dark elf, but the voice actor that the company got that's completely out of their control thought that basically meant Keebler elf. So they got like this like oh my god, it is voice like for this character that's supposed to be like some kind of drow or something. So it's like that's it. Carve that entire piece of the game out and delete it. Like you can't keep that part of the game because they're not gonna.
I wonder
get
if
a new
that's
voice
where
actor.
Viconia came from. Because Viconia is a character that shows up a little in the original Baldur's Gate, but then she's a prominent character in Baldur's Gate 2. And she's a dark elf as well.
It's just fascinating to hear about this mess, and suddenly you look back and you're like, okay, that's how you fucked up with the cat lady and like accidentally switched her romance settings and whatnot. Like, games are barely made.
I think the person you're talking about is James Olin.
I think the character I'm talking about is not a character anyone would know.
No.
I don't think it's a knowable character.
Sorry, the designer, the writer, the person who did the talking.
I don't know. I'm so bad with names.
I was looking at the credits and things. He also worked in Neverwinter Nights, which features some of the worst writing I've seen from BioWare. I know there's a lot of people who love Neverwinter Nights, and it's fine. It's all totally fine. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't have bad writing. It is awful. I'm talking about the original game, not the expansions. I haven't played them yet.
Think of all the money that went into making that. You're going to call it bad?
Neverwinter Nights was such a tremendous thing because it was the first 3D game by BioWare. It was marketed among certain circles as the next Baldur's Gate, where it clearly wasn't. It played like a Diablo game, honestly, a little with party members, like companions, just one companion or two, I think. And it's just like such a split from Baldur's Gate, and obviously it shaped Knights of the Old Republic because it's the same engine and it plays kind of like Knights of the Old Republic. BioWare has always been the kind
his
of
name was
that...
David Gator.
Oh, it's Gator. Oh, yeah.
He worked on Baldur's Gate 2,
How do you not,
Shadows of
Amn, and Throne of Ball.
Gator? I don't remember anybody's names.
He's super influential. He's
names are hard. I don't.
Yeah.
50 people worked on every game. I vaguely remember Drew Caption, I think is the Mass Effect guy. And it's mostly just from the news of him quitting over and over again or whatever. Or like, I feel like every time I hear about anything about BioWare, it's like, the lead writer quits, the doctors quit or whatever. Like, the guys that lead BioWare are known as the doctors.
Really?
Yes, because they're two doctors.
I didn't know that. They quit? Wait, the guys that lead BioWare quit?
I feel like it's happened multiple times. I keep hearing news about all the important people of BioWare quitting with such frequency that it feels like I hear about the same people quitting again years later, and I'm like, I don't understand. I understand what's happening.
Dragon Age 4. I'm looking it up right now, see what the latest news are, because I know I've seen this. The same person quit this game's development twice. Because that's a... Oh, it's now called Dragon Age Dreadwolf. Yeah. Maybe Microsoft is going to make them... No, wait. Microsoft is not buying Electronic Arts. Microsoft is buying Activision Blizzard. That's the one. Who is buying Electronic Arts?
No, it was Activision got bought by Microsoft, right?
Yeah. Well, still in the process.
Is somebody buying EA?
Yeah, they were... there's rumors anyway that they're trying to find a buyer.
Soon,
I'll say buyer,
just
but
the
most
entire
likely
industry will be one company.
Yeah, as long as it's not Disney.
Video games.
Video games.
They should sell themselves to the Nestle Corporation.
Oof. Can you imagine if it's both? No, wait. Ubisoft is still independent, but both EA and Blizzard under the same umbrella. That's the level of crappiness. Ubisoft really would just complete the triumvirate of shit. No, well, actually, Rockstar would also be needed to be included in that, and Square Enix. There's a lot of shit companies. This podcast is sponsored by a company that we haven't badmouthed yet.
What do we talk about on this podcast?
Well, the questions that
this
people
was a
ask.
viewer's fault. So
yeah, no, they're blowing it. I was like, let's stream and we'll just answer viewer questions. And we've had like one question that wasn't, whose person will you play game? I'm like, this is not what we're going for. We got like a half an hour out of the romance question, but
we got more questions in here now.
What do you feel about the current state of the puzzle game genre, and what were the last puzzle games that really scratched the itch? I mean, there's a fucking lot of puzzle games, so I think I feel like it's probably doing better than ever before because there's actually an indie market for what is a niche genre. Like, it was kind of a big ask to like figure out like, oh, like back in like the PlayStation era or whatever the fuck, like you had to like figure out how to make your puzzle game marketable enough to be viable to print discs and so on. Granted, games were also cheaper back then, so like the idea of being profitable was just a lot easier. There were definitely weird games, like just very, very strange games back then, just across the board, which is something I liked. But especially as you got into like I feel like especially the 360 era, like the genre disappeared. It was just not there for a while. Like you basically had Portal and a lot of shooters. Like the idea of like the price floor got so high that you wouldn't have published games in that genre until you had basically like Braid and Limbo for a bit, and then slowly we had this blooming like indie market that could be sold separately, and that's like where the genre existed. Which is interesting, because once upon a time, a puzzle game was the top-selling video game of all time. But that's
Tetris?
Missed.
No, because Tetris would also be a puzzle game.
I guess so. I don't know how Tetris. How does Tetris? I feel like you usually have to cheat and you have to combine all of the sales of all of the Tetris games or something.
It's literally called a Tetris puzzle.
Yeah, it is a puzzle game. It just may not. I mean, I wouldn't say.
No, I'm saying when you talk about the sales of Tetris, I think they usually cheat and converge all of the different Tetris games together into one stat.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah, they usually do.
Yeah, puzzle games were all the rage in the 90s. Which makes sense. I mean, you get a lot of longevity out of them, which means that they're relatively easy to make for people to keep entertained by the same game for a while. You know what I mean? Like, I think like when memory is a problem, storage in your whatever medium you're trying to sell, even though Myst was always wild in terms of how big the files were, but it's easier for companies to just make a longish game without having to work on levels or enemy AI and stuff like that.
I'm trying to think. I would.
I don't play puzzle games much, but I tried to buy a Monsters Expedition the other day for the Steam Deck, and it doesn't work on Steam Deck, and I'm like,
oh, weird.
Then I don't want it. Then I'm not gonna play it on my PC.
I wonder why that doesn't work on Steam Deck. That's strange.
Yeah, it's probably not.
Get on that, Hazaldic and friends or whatever you're called. I know you follow me on Twitter. Does not mean that which does not mean that you're watching this podcast.
Well, I need to make a Twitter.
I'm trying to find the last puzzle game I played.
and Friends.
I guess.
What am I thinking of?
I guess technically the last puzzle game I played was like Escape Simulator.
Alan Hazelden. There we go. I combined his company name and his real name. Hazelneck, whatever the fuck I said.
Yeah, Monsters Expedition looks really good, and it feels like it would be really fun to mess around with. I do play Sudoku though, and so it's a puzzle, but it's like a very specialized kind of puzzle.
you'd like to play one puzzle a lot, and you're like, keep randomizing this forever, please. I would like no further puzzles.
That's not how it works. You can have variant Sudoku. It doesn't have to be the same.
I would say it depends. Like I don't think that puzzle games are like, I don't think the genre's dead. I just think it's a very big genre now. I think that I would say there used to be a lot less options for puzzle games, and now there are a lot more options for puzzle games. And I think I don't know if it's bad or worse because there's so many. I don't think the quality of the games have gotten any worse or any better than they used to be. I think it's still just like, sometimes you'll find a puzzle game that you really click with and have a great time with, and sometimes you'll find a puzzle game that makes you wish puzzles didn't exist anymore. And then there are just puzzle games that just work, that they're fun, but they're not like, and they're not engrossing. They're not something you're like, I'm thinking about it every day. They're just like a puzzle you go in and you do a little puzzle for, like a crossword puzzle type deal, where you go in, you do your daily, and you walk away and you're like, well, that was fun, I guess. Like, I think there's just more access to puzzle games now. I guess that's the way I would say it. I think the current state is positive because there's a lot more access to puzzle games than there used to be. You can find them on every console, even on mobile. You can find them pretty much fucking anywhere now. And the quality of them is good. Yeah, and there's like a lot of cool, like The Room is always like my go-to example of
The Room games
I can't believe this is on mobile. Like, this is a mobile game, but it's also on PC. What the fuck? How did that happen? It looks so much fun. Or it is such a fun game. It even, like, on mobile, it is a fun game on mobile too. Like, that is amazing. But yeah, just the sheer quantity and accessibility to puzzle games, I would say, is just makes the puzzle genre great. But I couldn't tell you what was the last one that scratched like the puzzle itch for me. The one where I'm like, oh yes, finally, I feel like I have feel good about completing this. I can tell you the last time I hated puzzles existing, but I can't tell you like the last time I like felt like a puzzle game hit me the right way, where it was like, oh yes, I can get consumed by this if I'm not careful.
Was it Fidel Dungeon Rescue was a very cool riff on, like, they took the Witness style line drawing approach to puzzles and mixed it with like roguelike dungeon design and so on, and randomized that, and it was like very challenging, and you had to move relatively quickly because you had a timer built into it, and it was just like a real process to get through. I think I never actually beat it because it was actually very hard. The Dragnet games are all pretty good. Love it.
Baba Is You was very popular when it came out. I think people still talk about it.
Yeah, Baba Is You is very, very good. Return of the Obra Dinn is one of my personal favorites.
Oh yeah, that's really good.
I was not expecting the developer of Papers, Please to surprise me with something that I liked even more than their previous game. Like, it was...
Papers, Please is really good as well.
Fantastically good.
Is it a puzzle game? No, Papers, Please?
Papers, Please...
because if that's a puzzle game, then like cooking delicious serving sausage and stuff.
Well, I'm saying Obra Dinn's a puzzle game, and I was surprised that the person that made Papers, Please like one up to that. But no, I think Papers, Please counts as a simulator.
Yeah, it's more like that, isn't it?
Which is a nebulous thing, but there's a lot of like, you know, like office job games and cooking games and so on, that you were like running some kind of like storefront. Like, I think it fits into that idea more. But I like that, like, something like Obra Dinn kind of reapproaches the idea of what even constitutes a puzzle and your inputs and so on, and what that even means. Let's see.
Your inputs? How so?
Well, because that one was you trying to identify how people died. And so like a lot of puzzles are find a code and open a door, essentially, or find the lock, or solve, or, you know, unlock this, find the combination, or figure out how, the trick to unlatching this. Like, that's very mechanical a lot of the time, and this was more nebulous. And there was even an element of like the Paradise Killer question of whether or not you're doing a bad job and getting away with it, or if you're lying to benefit somebody or someone. There's like narrative in the puzzle solving and the element there. I was trying to go through my puzzle category on YouTube, and I'm actually surprised. I guess I was gonna say it feels like I get to really old games really quickly, and that it's not as puzzle intensive as I would have thought. But then I realized how long some of these fucking playthroughs are, because Full Bore was 36 episodes, Bonfire Peaks is 32 episodes, Superland and Superland Crash is 49. Like some of these actually, like Monster Expedition is a fairly long and like exhaustively difficult game at some point. Yeah, like in the Dracneck field, like Bonfire Peaks, Monsters Expedition, what's the train one called? Cosmic Express. Those are all pretty neat games. Cosmic Express was probably my favorite because I like the line drawing puzzles more than I like the push this thing around puzzles. That game was an interesting problem where you would have X number of inputs and outputs for where trains would go, and you had a certain number of like you had people who were like aliens of different colors and types, and they had places they were spawning and places they had to go to. And so you had to try to draw lines that could take them from point A to point B, and you had to take all of them from point A to point B, but they're all from different point A's and different point B's, and your train has X number of compartments to actually carry people at once. And they'll jump in or hop out the first chance they get when you go adjacent to their destination or source. And so you had to find like the perfect solution to every single level by drawing a line, and that was just a very fun riff on that idea. Baba Is You is good for having a lot of like those epiphany moments, like the something like I think something like Cosmic Express, probably its weak point is that it never has that moment. There's a moment you're usually looking for in a puzzle game where everything kind of breaks, I guess, or you escape the rules, essentially. Like that moment where you feel like you have defied the game in some way. It often happens narratively too, like characters like Gladys and so on. Like in Portal, you play the puzzle chambers chronologically as you were told to do, and then you don't. And then you like narratively, you're technically, like mechanically, you're still doing that, but narratively, you escape the rails that Gladys has you on, and you start going into these bizarre environments that are like the behind the scenes part of the building, and you're solving your way through that, and it all feels like you're mashing together broken parts to solve the puzzles as opposed to doing these like carefully like sanitized like rooms that are designed for the one solution and all that. And so it just kind of feels weird in that way. And a lot of puzzle games have a moment where you unlock something insane, or you like go out of bounds, or just something very strange happens. And what's nuts about Baba Is You is that that's like half of its puzzles in some cases. Like you just, because it's about reprogramming the game via this weird Sokoban programming hybrid mechanical setup, you'll just have like levels where you just turn the level into Baba or something. Like, and like everything is Baba, or some other absurd thing will happen.
Yeah.
And that's like, they ended up making a game that's full of those kinds of moments, of just those absurdities. Lock was good about. Lock was a game that I specifically downloaded Dreams just to play, and I did that developer interview with the developer, 800 Pixel Gorilla, and that game was interesting enough just to sell me on the entire idea of even downloading Dreams, which I had never done before. That game, that PlayStation game lets you make games, basically, from the developers of Little Big Planet, I think.
Yeah.
Like, Lock is such a good puzzle game that I just did that. And I fully recommend that if you haven't watched my playthrough, to just go check out Lock in Dreams, and just try it out for yourself. But, like, that one was very good at having these very interesting puzzles that would recontextualize what you were already looking at, and so on, and have some surprise, like, progression to it that's satisfying. I'm really curious about how you, like, the more I solve puzzles, the more I get a feeling for how to solve puzzles, you know? But
oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't feel like that gives me the ability to make puzzles. So I still don't understand how people make puzzles in general, or how you come up with like a core concept for a game and then iterate on that, and like what that process is like. And I especially don't know how you like then do that for like your whole, like you have that moment for your game. Like how do you even create that?
I don't speak from the experience of making puzzles, but there's something I've noticed you, Keith, haven't adapted to making yet, which is good for content, I suppose. I'm watching your vertical game on the Nintendo DS Let's Play, and I was watching the latest Witness Let's Play that you did, and you never go down to the mathematical fundamentals of puzzles. The Witness is very susceptible to that. A lot of the times, there's not that many combinations that are possible, even, and so you can look at the puzzles from a mathematical perspective and just like brute force them very fast. And you never engage with the games like that. You never look at them like a series of binary choices. And I
do think, sometimes. I definitely
yeah, for sure.
Especially when you get me like drawing like those puzzles where I have to draw in the Witness randomizer. When I was inside the mountain, there's those parts where I have to draw 2 symmetrical lines at once, and then those ones I got really granular. I was literally like, okay, what is every single fucking direction I could do? Like, cause I'm missing something.
Those are the hardest.
So like step by step, I started breaking down like, what turn am I not considering here? Because based on how you even start those puzzles, the rest of it kind of like, it's like solves itself in that like you keep having only so many steps you can make at some point after the way you start. And so that's why that actually was so frustrating, is that I definitely did start trying to break it down to like the number of combinations, and I could not spot where the one I was missing was.
Yeah. I said what I'm trying to get to is that if you train yourself to think of puzzles as mathematical binary choices, it's not immediately the binary choices don't happen right at the beginning of the puzzle, mind you, especially in the Witness, because you can go anywhere, start anywhere, and stuff like that. It's usually like you need to spot the points where the binary choices exist, and then shape the rest of the solution around them. And because the puzzles aren't that complex, it's just usually a grid of like 6x6, I think, dots and lines. So they're not super complex. So usually there's not enough room to make those binary choices, 1 or 2 that exist per puzzle. There's not enough room to make the rest of the puzzle be too difficult to guess after that. So what puzzles usually do, in video games anyway, is they force you into dead ends where you're like, okay, I don't know where to proceed. So you have to reassess everything from the beginning. And what happens to me in puzzles is, especially in RPGs, like Dragon Age happened in the first one and the second one, is I solve them instinctively, solve the puzzles instinctively, just because I know how developers are doing their thing. So I can tell the dead ends before I even walk into them. Like there's one puzzle at the end of the Dragon Age 2 that everybody's like, oh, that puzzle was terrible. It's like one with pillars. And I looked at the pillar for like 10 seconds, and I saw the binary choice that exists midway through the puzzle, and then the rest of the stuff is just fell into place. And I one shot that puzzle live on stream, and everybody was like, "Did you just cheat? Did you cheat? You cheated." And I was like, "Nope, puzzle is super easy." But you do need to like think of it very cynically and very okay. Let's look at what the developers are trying to do here. But I like. That happens because Dragon Age has elder puzzles. The one with the pillars is basically Pipe Dream, except with different graphics. So that one was easy, but I don't know if it's Baba Is You is very. I think that one is, of all the puzzle games that I've seen you play, Keith. It's probably the most challenging.
That one was
not even Myst.
That was slowly breaking my. I mean, Myst is not a very difficult series.
I couldn't get anything. I'm terrible at Myst. You just
it's
figured it out.
You have to it has to click, like just the basic idea of what Myst is as a series. It's this strange franchise where you observe this big 3D setting, and then you solve contextual puzzles that exist in the environment for a reason for the people that live there. So it's a very specific, strange franchise for that reason. And probably Uru is full of the most like bizarre and like taxing puzzles, and you're like, what the fuck are we doing here? because it's designed to have been a community solved game that you played with people and so on. But the main series, it's not especially super difficult. It's just very strange, and also all the puzzles are unique, so you have to like each time kind of figure them out on the fly. I think I talked about this previously in some context or whatever, but like just like how I bounced off of like CRPGs because I fundamentally didn't understand what they were, because I'm like, I look at the box and it looks like Diablo 2, and then I put it on my computer, it doesn't play like Diablo 2. How do I play this? Was like the reaction I had essentially. And like when I played Myst on my grandma's computer as a kid, I just so fundamentally didn't understand what it even was that I made zero progress of any kind. But like once I hopped on as an adult, I'm like, oh, this is fine. The first Myst especially is like I beat the entire game in one afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's only like a 4.5 hour game or something, going in blind.
I would have, but I gave up. I gave up at the train.
You're smart.
So
people get stuck in Myst for months.
Sometimes
they need to grow up to be able to beat it.
There's some weird moments, like the clock age is like you're holding down something for X amount of time and something off camera is moving that you can't see is a trip. And I guess some people get completely stopped dead by the pitch matching game, the piano. But like I can pitch match. I can do that. I can figure out a whole song by ear eventually. It'd be really annoying. Thankfully, these puzzles are only like 6 notes usually.
Mm-hmm. I can tell you the notes without even looking at the piano.
I cannot.
It's just practice.
That's
all it comes
not
down to.
what I
don't have perfect pitch though. I can't tell you if the note is 3 cents up or down or something like that. Absurd.
I'm very good at breaking things. So that's what I do.
Well, my take. Oh, sorry, you were going. Can I just say my take? I don't know if you're going to continue.
Go for it. No, I've got nothing else.
I grew up playing Tomb Raider 1, specifically Tomb Raider 1 because I didn't have the other ones, but then I eventually played 2 and 3 and Shadow of Darkness and all that. But games like Tomb Raider, where the puzzle is the point rather than necessarily the combat, that sort of stuff unfortunately got just completely swallowed by action in video games. And I wish it wasn't like that.
There are entire franchises that were about thinking and solving and considering that just became about going and doing.
Yeah, Resident Evil, Silent Hill, to a certain extent. All those games is just like the vocabulary of video games these days is action and shooting and like jumping and things. I even jumping is a puzzle though, but I wish it wasn't. Especially for single player games, I think there's so much more room to tell interesting stories and have interesting experiences making puzzles than necessarily just shooting. And that's what I miss from puzzle games. It's not the thing is Tomb Raider was not a puzzle game. It wasn't meant to be like that. But just the same way Silent Hill isn't a puzzle game, even though it has even more puzzles than Tomb Raider. But that's where I miss the puzzles the most these days.
What game would you like to see a sequel to, but you know it's not going to happen? I would have said Pathologic 2, but apparently the Bachelor's campaign's coming out.
Oh, nice!
But apparently it's going to be... I have heard things about it that make me very nervous.
Oh no, what happened?
It sounds like fucking Toaster can explain this better at some point probably, but like I think it's going to be non-linear, like in time, and it's not going to involve the open world.
That's ballsy.
Well, it's just because it's what they can afford. Like they can't afford to make a Bachelor campaign, so they're going to make some kind of strange thing instead. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how it's going to work out. I guess we'll see.
The demo was pretty strange. I found. I liked it, but it was like I was like, what am I supposed to do here? How do I maximize my performance? demo for The Bachelor.
Yeah, I've never played Marble Hornets. It always felt redundant because so I'm like, why would I play this like standalone thing? I'm waiting for like the campaign to come out so I can play that. Like whenever I played like the demo for Nier Automata or something, and then I have to come back and play the real game later, I'm like, I regret playing the demo. This is here I am replaying this part of the game and so on. But who knows if any of the Bachelor stuff will even be in the actual game when it comes out because of how strange things the development of that game is. It's been 3 years.
I'm gonna say that if they release it as non-open world, it might be better. Because the Bachelor campaign isn't necessarily the best thing for the open world of Pathologic. If they had to make an open world game, well, the Changeling also benefits from the open world, I suppose, or at least in the original vision for her campaign.
I was going to say the entire Changeling campaign needs to be remade because the thing we got in the first game was like barely worth playing.
Yeah, but the Bachelor campaign being more linear and more, I say linear, but you said precisely the opposite. Less open world and being more experimental. I think it's fine, or hopefully it's fine. I could see it being good.
Well, I mean specifically, it's non-linear in time, is what I heard. I think. This is what happens when I'm trying to repeat shit that other people have said, but I don't think you play the days in order. And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah. The demo starts off with a scene that happens at the end of the demo. So it's not like in Meridian thing or whatever it's called. It's like you get the context and then you go and prepare for that context. And that preparing is due to you being asleep. I think you have a fever or something like that. So it's like half dream, half moving around. It's weird. I thought it was really interesting, challenging to understand. Yeah. I liked the demo, even though it was just a little. I have a game that I'm gonna say is not gonna be made. Bloodlines 2.
And if it is, the one that's like our current vaporware shit.
If it's coming out, it's probably not gonna be the game that the literal writer of the first Bloodlines wrote. Bloodlines 2 was written by actually 2 people instead of just one, like in the first game, or mostly just one person in the first game. Bloodlines 2 was written as well by the same writer that Bloodlines 1 was, and they canceled it and they're just remaking it because I think they're afraid that the combat sucks, which it's fine. It's a sequel to a game where the combat sucks. It's totally fine for the combat to suck. I'm just like, I don't understand. I mean, I do understand why they would be afraid of releasing it. But yeah, big shame.
I think it's, I feel like it's always folly to try to make a sequel to like those like hyper influential RPGs that people idolize so much, because it's like they were almost always made in an incredibly weird, scrappy scenario where they barely finished the thing to begin with, and like half of it's leaking out of its ear and shit. Like they're like barely functional products made by dead studios usually, and it's like it's such a bizarre thing to try to recreate, because in many cases they're often like functionally failures, but the people like usually can't get the same people to make it again anyway. But then also like any corporate decision will immediately go against the idea of making the thing that was the point of why you were making the sequel to it in the first place, and so on. And it's like it just becomes a weird compromise thing. I don't know, like I feel like any of them will like never come out, and then the ones that do, like Outer Worlds, are just like so pale compared to the thing that they were trying to recreate. And we had the discussion before where like I keep thinking that like the worst parts of Outer Worlds are the parts where it's trying to be New Vegas. And like if it had just been its own game, it would have been better than trying to be like the spiritual successor to that game you're obsessed with.
I agree completely. And but the thing is, I also think if they make New Vegas 2, they're also going to fail, because New Vegas was also the result of weird like limitations imposed by Bethesda and by time and by the engine. it's and like Baldur's Gate 3 is kind of the same. Baldur's Gate 3 is being developed by the same folks who did Divinity Original Sin, and incidentally, all of the Divinity games. And I don't know that it has anybody that worked in Baldur's Gate 1 or 2. It's just a Dungeons and Dragons flavored Divinity game is what it's going to be, which is totally fine. Like Divinity Original Sin 2 was, I loved it. It was tremendously good.
Yeah,
well
it's
balanced.
just wearing the reputation of a different franchise just for the sake of it, basically.
But I also think that people are not really falling for it. Like old school players that did play Baldur's Gate, they don't, like, they know that it's not necessarily, that it's not going to give them the same thrill. I was talking earlier this week with a coworker about games, about role-playing games, and she was like, oh, I really enjoyed Baldur's Gate 2. I need to get around to this Pathfinder game that she had seen as advertised. And I was like, if you like Baldur's Gate, you might want to go with the Pillars of Eternity because, well, it was designed to be, I didn't make this argument, but among us here, Pillars of Eternity originally was called Project Infinity. Was it Infinity? What is it called? Project Infinity? Yeah, I think so. Which is a reference to the Infinity engine, which is the engine that Baldur's Gate ran on. And it was pitched in the Kickstarter campaign. It was pitched as the spiritual successor of Baldur's Gate. So it was designed from the ground up to be like a Baldur's Gate kind of game.
I see why it's necessary, but I'm so tired of the fact that like half of all modern RPGs that are made are like built, they're greenlit or kickstarted based on the promise of remaking something from the 90s, basically, or giving you back what you feel about that.
I mean, you're right, but in the case of Pillars of Eternity, it doesn't really do that very much. Like it's good if you like
the promise, and it's why it's greenlit. It's chained to that premise.
Mm-hmm. It was a wave of games like that for a few years in Kickstarter. You see that with the Legend of Grimrock and with the
Shadowrun,
with the Mech Warriors game, with that shooter game, this Super 8 kind of character that ended up not being a game at all or whatever. I don't remember for the Nintendo.
Mighty Number 9? Are you talking about that?
Mighty Number 9.
Mighty Number 9, Bloodstained, the Double Fine adventure game, Broken Age. The entire premise there was to like nostalgically bring back the style of game this particular company used to make. Like it's people quickly realized that in order to greenlight to kickstart a video game, you pretty specifically need to go for nostalgia. And so that's why specifically one of the most consistent genres is CRPGs.
But the thing is, that's in contrast with what actual normal publisher funded games do, where, like, for example, Deus Ex, it does the same thing, but it doesn't deliver on the nostalgia. Like Deus Ex Human Revolution is like, oh, I'm going to wear the skin of Deus Ex, but I'm not going to be what Deus Ex 1 was. So
it's more like the gamers didn't ask for this.
It's like Fallout 3 did that, and BioShock did that as well, where they're basing their experience or their promises off of an old school kind of game, but they're really doing something else with it. And I think that creates some tension in the players, where if somebody comes along and says, I'm going to make it exactly like it, I'm going to make Fallout, but like turn-based, proper top-down, right-click on things to see what their description and the narrator talks to you, and it's going to be amazing. And people would just shell over money for that game, no problem. Nobody ever did that, which was kind of a shame, but still. It's, I see what you mean. I think what I was trying to say with my example here is that people are not necessarily very informed about the latest Baldur's Gate lookalike in this particular case, because I think Pillars of Eternity is probably the best bet if you like that style of game. But Pillars of Eternity is a good game. It's a great game just in and of itself without any context. But if Baldur's Gate is the kind of game that you liked, then you should absolutely give it a shot. What I'm trying to say is that when they look at things like Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 2, and just because it wears the same name, they know it's not what they
wasn't Dark Alliance basically Diablo? Like a real-time hack and slash thing.
Yeah.
I think that was the game that fucked with me because it had old school armor rules where having a high number was bad. You wanted to have 0 or something, and I'm like, what the fuck? I don't know.
It's really stupid as well, because by the time Baldur's Gate 2 was released, Baldur's Gate 3, Dungeons and Dragons 3 was already a thing. So they just used the old rule system because of it was the engine that supported it. And so Dark Alliance 1 and 2 came out years after Baldur's Gate 2 came out. So they just was like, oh yeah, let's just add numbers. It wasn't really a D&D game. It was just like wearing the skin and just slash.
I find it's amusing that people were so committed to the idea of D&D inspired RPGs to the point where, like, even down to the point where you play KOTOR, all of your damage values are clearly dice rolls.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like,
in the case of Dark Alliance, it was 100% a grift, though. Interplay at that time was just the worst thing, and they were just going through their IPs and using whatever technology they had, and getting studios to bankrupt themselves to make games for them at the same time. Interplay went down.
Fallout, Brotherhood of Steel, I think is what it's called.
It's the same engine. Yeah.
Trying to make action games out of all their CRPG properties.
Yeah. If you look up the design documents for Fallout Brotherhood of Steel, for example, you can see just absurdly cynical takes on things like why women wear chainmail bikinis and how explosions make the game better, and just it's basically everything that's wrong with AAA development, except done by a failing company that was a tremendously big company. Interplay was enormous. It was the biggest publisher for PC games in the 90s. But they had terrible leadership after Brian Fargo left the company, I think. I don't know why he left the company. I never knew why he left the company.
He's the guy that tweeted my Let's Play.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I know his name. I remember some names sometimes.
I was
the guy from In Exile.
It's still the most popular video on my entire fucking channel. God damn it.
Sorry, Andrew. A sequel to what?
I would like a sequel to Fury.
Fury?
I think.
F-U-R-I.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, F-U-R-I. I would like... I know it will never happen. They did just release a new... what's it called? A new DLC this year.
New DLC?
For it.
They made a new game, I know.
Yeah, they released it. They've also released a new DLC for Fury. Yeah, there's like a new fighter and some new skills and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. I think it'd be fun to play a sequel. I'd like to see a sequel with like a different character escaping the prison or something like that. I think that'd be fun. I really like the skill-based. I like the combination of like melee skill-based shmups. Like, that's a really fun, untapped genre. I feel like a lot of shmups don't feel that good to do boss fights in, like Fury managed to do. And I know that, like, it's not possible to do a sequel ever, obviously, because the talent behind it is long gone. And I don't even know how you would make a sequel to it without just basically doing the exact same game over again. But I think it'd be fun I would like to see another one, or just something like that again would be nice. I don't know. I've been trying to find some style of that, or like some middle ground of that, because a lot of Metroidvanias will be similar to it in the sense of how it does its boss fights. Like, there'll be a lot of shmup space boss fight styles. Like Cult of the Lamb does that, and a couple of other Metroidvanias I've been trying to play, but they're all just not difficult on the same level that Fury was. There was this level of struggle that you had to go through in order to master some of these combats or some of these fights. And I would like that replicated somehow, but nope.
Maybe From Software is going to do something like that in the future.
I doubt it. I don't think there's ever been a From Software game boss fight that I went like, wow, yeah, this is everything I want. Like, never.
Not even Millennia?
I don't think it's ever happened. No, there's nothing. I think as time goes by, I'm more confident that From Software's losing their understanding of what makes good boss fights. Like, as it keeps progressing, they're slowly starting to lose it's just like anything. If something survives long enough, it starts to like lose itself. It goes like, I don't know what people want anymore, but I'm just gonna keep making the thing that I kind of know what people want. They want bosses that are hard. I'm like, okay, well
I didn't want that.
that's like the first step. Now you need to make the hard boss enjoyable, playable, fulfilling to beat. There's a lot of other factors involved. It's like, no, hard boss. Oh, okay, that's fine. You can do that. It's bad. It will always be bad, but you can do it. And that's what like the majority of the last bosses in Elden Ring felt like. It's just didn't
I
feel
thought
good.
the second to last boss was fun. I mean, the first phase, the second phase, I didn't get to play it very much because it was
I
weird.
I honestly didn't notice a single person on the I guess you could call it the rush to the end. I didn't notice a single person on that path. I just walked right through them. Just like, excuse me, coming through,
You
gotta
just
get to the
murdered
end
them
of the
all.
game. Sorry. Yep. I was just like 1, 2, 3, 4, gotta get out of the way. Next one, 3, 4, gotta get out of the way. Like just me and Mimic just mashed through everything. Just it was gone. It was all over. There was nothing left. Just sorry, I have to beat this game right now. Please get out of the way.
Yeah.
And then of course the ending was like, haha, you wanted to beat the game and not watch it for 30 fucking years? Well, your fault then. Like, sorry, I forgot I didn't want to just spend all day running at a boss. Would have been nice to fight
Oh
it
yeah, I saw that.
at some
I thought
point, which I didn't.
you were
I didn't even
really
bother.
upset
I said,
about that.
I put my hands up in the air and I said, you know what? I'm just going to play the game like you intended to. And so I summoned a guy who could beat the final boss for me, and I let him do that. Look at that. There you go. You wanted the whole summon thing. There it is.
Man,
And I
Radagon was
that
a
was
pretty
easy.
decent
Wow.
fight, so I was really bummed out that Elden Beast
Yeah,
existed.
dude. What a fucking, like, even the first phase of the final boss was like, yeah, okay, I'm down for this. And then the second phase is like, what the fuck? What happened? Yeah, did you like fire the guy in charge of this halfway through building this boss? Did he just like fuck off somewhere?
There's a lot of very goofy like traditional video game stuff going on, like jumping over the hazards and running in a circle from the sky, the humming sky projectiles and so on. It's just, I had some choices right at the end.
I got really lucky with that
great.
phase because the first time I got one shot by a thing that I didn't see, and the second time I just staggered at the boss and killed it, and that was it. I loved it.
Yeah,
it was great.
I think every time I died was because I was out of stamina from running constantly, and that's all I did. Was like I couldn't do literally anything else but run. It was like the boss would never stop nearby me, and when he did, he would immediately do moves that I needed to run away from. And I'm like, what the fuck? Should I just put all my stats into stamina and nothing else? Then I could just keep chasing after him and hitting him very weakly.
It felt very strange that you couldn't summon Torrent for sure, especially since boss fights are often like the culmination of the mechanics of a game, and you spent all game with a horse, but the horse was so clearly just meant for the open world parts, not like the parts where the story happens.
I would have been totally down because it made sense too. Like it would have made
you
a lot
absolutely
more
should have been
sense
able
if
to chase him down with Torrent.
Yeah.
It makes that whole fight screams, I can use Torrent here, and you can't. And I'm like, it's so confusing.
Yeah, that would have been so good. I would have had zero complaints. I would have been like, it's stupid, it looks like shit.
It'd be
but
a
at
good
least
climax,
I could beat
though.
Like,
I think it would.
Yeah, it was really dumb. I hated it, and nothing makes me more sorry. It's just on my mind because I recently finished editing that episode, and nothing makes me more mad than looking at it and being like, oh my god, this fucking was in the game. Someone made this. Why would you do this? Like, how could you be
edited?
so? Yeah, I just edited
edit?
that episode.
Did I see you live? Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, you probably watched me live. I haven't. I mean, I definitely haven't gotten to the ending yet in the series. I'm still like, I don't know, like episode 70. Jesus, it's too many fucking. So long. That game was so goddamn long.
I've edited all of my episodes, and it resulted in 187 half an hour plus.
Oh my god! What the?
I did do almost everything
because I did everything in an hour. I was like, I just need to bust through this. I don't care who watches it. I just need this content out of here. Get these videos out of my hard drive. They are too many fucking long ass videos. I need to get you out of here. If I did 30-minute increments, I would be there forever. I would probably be at like.
My plan is to continue releasing episodes until March next year.
That's not. I don't want to do that.
I've been edited and ready for months now.
That's ridiculous.
That's
ridiculous.
That literally is a whole year.
Yeah, it is 100%.
That's what I'm saying. Is like
fine.
I'm fine pushing them out at 100, like an hour increments. It's fine. I know no one's gonna watch them anyways. Just let them just sit there, and maybe one day someone will be like, I want to see this notoriously shitty run of Elden Ring. All right, there you go. You could watch that shitty run.
I'm very proud of my editing though. I took out all the shitty stuff.
I didn't. I had no interest. No, just this is what because I'm not gonna fix a bad game. It's not my job to present it more interesting to people. This is the real game. The real game is a lot of running around in a dead ass empty area going, boy, howdy gee, what is next on the list? And that's it.
That's true.
I'm not gonna cut that out. Like,
that's true.
And I didn't spend a lot of time losing boss fights. So it's mostly just me beating the shit out of someone really quickly and then going like, fuck, what do I do now? I got nothing else to do. Like that's most of every episode. It's just me going like, I quickly kill the thing. What else do I do?
Especially later in the game, there were a lot of large areas with barely anything in them. Like all the area around the capital, for example, it's barren. It's like it has 2 things around it, and it's just enormous area with nothing. And like even inside the capital is mostly nothing. It's just some souls and some enemies, but it's just like boring.
Yeah, not to spoil the capital, but
no, sorry, I said inside the capital. I mean inside the walls, but still outside the capital. The capital itself is, the best area.
The outside the capital, I don't remember anything about it.
It doesn't have anything. There's a church with a cat that transforms from a person into a cat, and there's
and then it gets like wiped away, and
I just killed it like so fast.
Yeah,
he just showed up, killed the dude, killed the cat. That's it.
Yep, I have no interest in anything like that, and that's like, and I don't know. Again, it just I think that problem for me I think the problem for me was just because I was given the option to do something, I did it, and I just always go back to like maybe I get why it's appealing, but I don't think it's conductive to have such level of freedom with RPG games. I think there needs to be a little bit more thought put into like some kind of constraints. Because like the idea that I could just, what if I max out my strength and just go around and hit people to death really quickly? And the game just goes like, if that's what you want to do. And I'm like, but should it be what I can do? Like, should you let me do that? Is that really a good representation?
Disco Elysium made a lot of waves. And hopefully Pentiment from Obsidian will make a lot more waves as well. Hopefully RPGs are headed more towards Disco Elysium than they are, Elden Ring.
I don't know. Elden Ring
After how much money it made, I don't know.
Yeah. I
think
a lot of people are going to be like, yeah, they're going to be like, wait a second, I could just do nothing for half of a map and then just have a lot of bosses? I could do that. That's not too hard. All right, let's get that going. Someone make like a boss and we'll copy it 5 times and put it into various parts of the fucking map. I could do that. That's easy.
And then they have Neo, or the one with the robot.
I can't tell you how many times I fought the same stupid fucking
Which one is the one
snake
that
thing?
has a...
What is that?
It's a person in a wheelchair that gets into a robot and then kills. The Surge.
Yeah. Surge.
The stupidest story. It has the worst story, The Surge.
It barely has a story.
Dude, that doesn't make it any better.
It just they barely had one.
It was
All right,
bad.
we definitely got to wrap things up. We're well over our 2 hours. Thanks for coming, everybody. See you guys next time. Send your questions to dialogchoicespodcast@gmail.com or else.
Or else.
Or else.
We're going to have to do it live again, and you don't want that.
That barely worked.
Don't say that.
The whole chat feed was just, are you going to play game? I'm like, no, don't ask me that. That was most
Keith
of it.
has already played every game you want him to play. He just hasn't uploaded it yet. So the answer will
out of
always
spite.
be yes.
And every time you ask him if I'll play
100%.
it, I delay its release by another month. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye.